On the 17th or 18th of September, where it depends on where you guys live, we're having the first lunar eclipse with a north node emphasis in the sign of Pisces since when? Drum roll backwards in time, 1987 to 1989 and 2006 to 2008. Those are the last times in our lives we had this every 18 and a half year cycle roll through our collective and individual skies. This makes this an important beginning of a new direction for you individually, depending on your sun or moon or rising sign. You can try for all three, but also for the world as well. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a little bit about eclipses. This eclipse is visible in North America and in Europe on the Eastern Seaboard, for example. So who gets most impacted geopolitically? But also we're going to dive into looking at the energies that repeat in these cycles, because the universe is made up of repeating cycles. I always talk about everything is like cycles within cycles. And this is a big deal because eclipse changes are fated. It's almost like if you were incarnating, okay, say if you're an actress or actor and you're going to take a role in a movie, and the director and the screenplay writer are like, yeah, make some changes. Oh, sure, ad lib it here. Yeah, develop the character. We're good with that. Oh, you don't like this event that we scripted for you? Let's make some adjustments. Okay, that's reality. That's the normal way of life in many ways. But when it comes to eclipses, it's like hard written plot points in the script of your life and in the script of the world that there are no negotiations on. You're not going to be able to extricate yourself from fated changes that these eclipses represent. Maybe you can call it a soul contract, a soul plan, a pre-life plan, call it what you will. Normally, we feel like we're moving on waves of fated circumstances, like a river of fantastical fate or destiny moves through us as us, and we are propelled along to changes in our lives that are necessary or that we agreed to at some level. People often don't like an eclipse in the sense that it can take away the sense of agency or control in your life, but a deeper level of you, a deeper part of you is in control. So let's go with that assumption. All righty. Now, this is lunar, not solar. So let me say a couple of general things. And I'm blinded by the white, right? You're blinded by the white. Why is she wearing such a white outfit? Because eclipses are the darkening of the light. The lunation at its full moon will be darkened by the sun's the crossing with the sun, and also a solar eclipse is the bright light of the sun being completely dark. And so lunar eclipse is the earth gets between the sun and the moon and blocks the light of the sun. So we see that a darkness befalls us upon an eclipse. And technically, all of you eclipse watchers should beware. I don't mean be aware or afraid of blinding your eyeballs, although that's possible. I mean, it's not meant to be looked at in the ancient tradition. I'm not superstitious, but one time I did look at a lunar eclipse through the whole darn thing, and it was pretty darn intense. But my life was a calamitous hot mess after. The best you can do is wear white, get chill, meditate, put some good Tibetan bells on, eat light. Don't keep food out according to Indian astrology. You don't want food exposed to the lunar energy. But I'm just saying, you do you, but be experimental. Maybe you don't need to look at an eclipse. Could you get maybe a perspective that is just a trial run on, I will not visually look at an eclipse if I don't have to? Think about it. Maybe yes, maybe no. Now, before we get started and dive into this eclipse with a lot of detail about where it's visible, also about this eclipse cycle, I'm going to show you a chart that I want you to screenshot. Let me just say one thing. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using Western Tropical Zodiac Astrology, whole sign houses. Big stars and matter asteroids are a big part of how I'm helping you time your best life using astrology as a navigational tool. Try me out, like, subscribe. I put out 20 to 30 videos a month. They're always all sign. Second of all, if you're at all interested in mundane or world astrology, every video I do starts off with the mundane and world astrology, and then we move into the signs. You can click the chapters or the timestamps in the comments to move to your sign if you don't want to listen to how this impacts the world. I totally get it. And one more thing I want to say. My astrology class starts, Sky Reader. It's called Sky Reader. Be your own astrologer, time your best life. This will be my 5th time teaching. It starts the last weekend in September. Check it out in the description box below. You can get on the early bird discount wait list, and you'll know when the enrollment cart opens, which will be in mid-September. And also there's a description of the course on my website, and the link to that is in the video below. I'd love to have you come study with me. My goal is to teach you to fish, not hand you a fish. Here's the fish. This is what I say is true. Why not get a fishing rod and be able to read your own sky? That's the goal of me being here. I want everyone to be able to use these astrological tools. I don't want to be your expert authority. Then you're dependent on me. Right? So let's get moving, and we're going to talk about the eclipse. First thing I want to mention is this is a hybrid eclipse, and that simply means that the North Node of Fate is still lingering in the sign of Aries, which has been in since last July and doesn't leave until January of this year. And so it brings into the field of our energy both Aries themes and of course, Pisces themes. So we can't discount the combination energy here. Yet when we see the eclipses moving forward next year, during 2025 and 2026, those are not hybrid eclipses in the sign of Pisces, but full on North Node in Pisces with an eclipsing of sun or moon. So this has got a flavor of the old segment of reality. A big North Node eclipses in Aries have brought war into our story with the Middle East in a big and dynamic and profound way. And so we can see lingering elements of those kinds of pieces of the sky. I'm going to show you a few things right now, and I want to just grab my mouse. I'll be right back. All right, so let's take a look at this chart. Go ahead and grab a screenshot of it because it may be helpful for you to use this instead of me listing a bunch of dates that you have to write down, which can be difficult, right? You've got this here. So North Node eclipses in the sign of Pisces is what I'm sharing with you. And this is the sequence in the past. Now we have South Node eclipses in Virgo anytime we have North Node eclipses in Pisces. So there's always two sides of a dumbbell, basically. So a nodal axis is 180 degrees. So when I talk about eclipses in Pisces, which we're featuring today, you have to understand that there are also eclipses in Virgo going on at the same time. But we're just going to focus on the North Node, which amplifies volume, expands it, attempts to bring worldly success, and intensifies and amplifies both the good and the bad of the energy of the sign of Pisces. The South Node is always a letting go, release, a disappointment, a surrender. And so when we had the South Node eclipse on the Israel's ascendant last October, we had the beginning of a war in the Middle East, catastrophic outcomes here. Ultimately, with the South Node going through Israel's ascendant, this is not going to go well for Israel because they stand to be South Noded, which is it is coming into a deeper spiritual awareness, but on the downside, you don't get your goals always met wherever the South Node goes. It's an energy of letting go. So this is the North Node eclipse. It's what we reach for. It's what we strive for. It's what we're grabbing. We've been in eclipses through Aries and Libra since April of 2023 with a hybrid eclipse in the sign of Aries. Now we're into a new eclipse cycle beginning in January, full on, when the nodes of fate move fully into the tropical western north nodes of fate, moves into the axis of Pisces and Virgo. What you're seeing here is this beginning of the process, but with this eclipse on April 17th, 18th, the beginning of think of it like the shadow zone, or maybe about the threshold. So the eclipse is on the threshold of the old North Node eclipses in the sign of Aries, and the new eclipses that are going to be full on North Node Pisces eclipse. Everyone has Pisces somewhere in your sky. You all do. That's where things are going to radically change and expand and grow, maybe even provide what you would call worldly success. Ambitions are expanding here, but also you can feel like it's consuming your life. You're the serpent with his it's a serpent's head divorced from the tail, which anchors it. And so it can be like that headless chicken where you're going overboard in something in your own life. The North Node eclipses in Pisces chart is for you to screenshot right now. I hope that whole thing is visible by you guys, that it's all in the screen of your actual YouTube land. And I made that for all of us so we could have it handy. So going back to 2006 and 7 and 1988 to 89. Now, I said in the intro that things began also in 1987, and they went from 2006 to 2008. That's true, but that's because we had Virgo eclipses bracketing it. We had a Virgo eclipse in 2008 in the springtime, and we had a 1987 eclipse as well in Virgo. So the axis was activated from 1987 to 89, and it was activated from, did I get that right? Yes. And it was activated from 2006 to 2008. So keep those broader strokes in mind. But we're looking simply at Pisces and what was happening. Obviously, the moon means it's a lunar eclipse, and the sun means it's a solar eclipse. And yes, it is an 18-year cycle. And one more thing I'd say about this 18-year cycle is that it's interesting to me as an astrologer to notice that every time we have the eclipses in Pisces, we always seem to have fewer of them than the Virgo. I know that an astronomer could probably tell me why, but when we go back to 2006 to 2008, we had 5 eclipses in Virgo, and we had 3 eclipses in Pisces. When we go back to 1987 to 89, we had 3 eclipses in Pisces and 5 eclipses in Virgo. And so what makes that interesting is that during this time, there's a lot of letting go, South Node releasing, surrendering, disappointment in your Virgo sky and my Virgo sky and the world's Virgo sky. Every country has a natal chart, for example, and the Virgo sky in the United States of America's natal chart is the 10th house of the party in power. And you might be able to note that there will be changes of the party in power connected to elections coincident to or close to these particular cycles. We'll be talking about that shortly because we are indeed in an election year. And so the indicator can be for significant change because of that. So we got the 18-year cycle, 18 and a half year cycle here. This is the vibe. This is important because I want you to be able to look back in your life to these rhythms. When I do the all signs, you'll be able to compare how what I tell you may happen this time may or may not have occurred the last time, right? Use that as a tool. Now, we will have an eclipse October the 2nd. That eclipse is October the 2nd in the sign of Libra, and it's at 10 degrees of Libra, and it's the last eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra. And it's important because is it going to continue, extend, or complete, or do something with the war in the Middle East? Because it was first eclipse in Libra, was right on the ascendant, the big one, fall of October of 2023. And we began to see a catastrophic war in the Middle East that threatens to escalate beyond the borders of Israel and into the world at this point. So look for October 2nd eclipse video coming up. I'll be talking about that. But also we're in an eclipse portal, so to speak, a window where we have a lunar eclipse followed by a solar eclipse. And this energy is active now. I'm recording on September 3rd, and you're going to get this video a little later because my Patreon community gets early access ad-free. But the energy of this Pisces full moon eclipse is active already, as so is the October the 2nd Libra eclipse. And I tend to see that solar eclipses can be rippling out as much as 6 months before the actual eclipse, but certainly 3. And with a lunar eclipse, you could also see it within a month or 6 weeks before. So you're already feeling the energies, all of us, about what's going to change in our Pisces part of our sky and what's going to change in our October eclipse, our Libra part of our sky. Now, what about world stories? Let's bring that up. Oh, first of all, let me show you where it's visible. You ready? So let me pull that up. Is it available yet? I think so. Let me find it. Took a nice screenshot. Go to time. If you want to see eclipse information, there's many sites. I really like timeanddate.com. And if you go to timeanddate.com, they'll have times where you can see this eclipse in your time zone. It's about a 4-hour eclipse, and it's a partial. It means it's not the whole sky, the moon that's covered. Okay, just so you know. So let's bring it up for you to look at what I'm seeing. And then we'll go into world events followed by your sign. If you're new to my channel and you haven't tried me out, please like and subscribe. If you're a regular who watches all the time, please subscribe. Thank you. So this is, if I was living in Toronto, Canada, I don't, I live in Vancouver. The eclipse is happening in the evening, like between 8 o'clock and midnight in the evening or so, or 7 p.m. and 11:30 p.m., midnight to midnight on the 17th in Toronto, Canada. And you can watch that eclipse from Toronto, Canada. You can see it. Again, it's up to you. I'm wearing white for might here. And I'm saying if I approach eclipse watching with great caution, unless I know I'm a wizard and I have total, some kind of total like shield around me, I just don't think it's a good idea. I'm going to go with the ancient world. They weren't just superstitious. They were mystically inclined wizards and smart about such matters. You can say a portal opens a door to something. What is the door of an eclipse? It takes the light down and it leaves a darkness through which something can emerge, right? So it's a suggestion that you may want to say, super chill, not watch it, wear white, put some meditation music on, eat light, treat yourself well during the eclipse. This is where the eclipse is visible in the sky. Now, it's the pinky zone that's the most visible right in here. Right? Can you guys see the pinky zone? Like pink as in not pinky finger, right in here. So you'll notice that if you're in North America, right, you are on the like the Chicago area, eastward, that you can see this lunar eclipse. All of South America is involved and Europe is involved. Now we go all the way through Africa like this, and we go up and up and up and up. And we have a lot of ability to visualize in the deepest pink part, the heart of the energy, the core of the eclipse visibility. Geographically, this indicates impact on the countries and the nations and the parts of the world involved over the course of the 6 months that follow. My understanding and my experience with lunar eclipses is they reveal what is hidden under, like, I'm going to credit Austin Kopek for one time saying it's like luminol at a crime scene where you can see the blood that was already there. I've found that eclipses do have a revelatory nature to them, and a lunar eclipse is always shedding a new light, but under the eerie glow of a lunar eclipse. Another metaphor would be your black light poster in the 70s. It looks like nothing till you put that special light on it. The special light of a lunar eclipse does reveal what has been hidden from our own understanding or our own view. Let me give you a simple example from my life. And it usually lasts 6 months. I find that I know what the eclipse is about within 6 months of the eclipse. I had a lunar eclipse to my IC in Rain, come back online in 2020 in the fall, and that lunar eclipse on my IC in Gemini was right on my IC, right the root of where I live, where I find my residence, everything. And I knew that meant I was going to move, but I had no idea why I'd do that. I love my apartment in Montreal. Yet by the time I got to March of 2021, mere 3 or 4 months later, I had an absolute need to move. It was urgent, and I knew why I was moving. So the lunar eclipse didn't force my hand. I find solar eclipses are kind of like someone pulls the rug out from underneath you, or that old saying, God laughs at our best laid plans, right? I mean, there's a quality of the capricious changes we don't expect that come with a solar eclipse, where a lunar eclipse tends to give us a little bit more sense of cooperation with the actual changes. So more agency, more co-creative energies going on there. I knew I had to move, but I didn't have to move. I could have stayed and suffered where I was. The lunar eclipse revealed the necessity of the move. Now, in this part of the sky, right, you might notice that we have a huge amount of energy going on in Europe. And this is going to impact all of Europe, the British Isles, the main part of Europe. Nobody is not locked into this energy. So expect a lot of shift in the European stories. Europe is definitely in the mix. There's no two ways about it. But so in this pinky zone here, that's not as intense, we're going to get a little, my line, did I draw my line? Yeah, I did. So this is the most intense. Then we have a second layer here, a lighter pink, right? This is the next layer, like an egg with a yolk and the yolk and the white. So if we look at it this way, we can see a little bit of the pinky line go straight up here. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, so I'm in this very mild zone over here. But we see this going here, we see this going here, and then we have the Middle East involvement, right? We have a lot of Middle East energy in here. So then we see, what's going on in the Middle East? Is it going to be more connections to the Israeli conflict? There's Greece, the little boot down here, and then we move this way and we're into the Middle East. Northern Africa, Middle East, Egypt, they're in a lighter zone, but they're being impacted for sure. So keep it in mind, note where you live. Are you in the thick of it? Anybody sort of Chicago, USA, heading east are getting a lot of intensity from this eclipse. And down here, we have South America and the what do you call it? The Central America, South America, but Central America here, right? And we also have Texas, X marks the spot, and Florida, and we could have hurricanes in here because this is a Pisces water thing. We could have big problems with more border control issues down here in the Texas area on the edge of the border with Mexico. We could also see this as, I definitely think, landfall hurricanes, hopefully not tsunami energy. We have hardship in Pisces right now. I'll explain it later. And this eclipse, again, could show up to a month before and up to 6 months after, the 17th, 18th of September. The Panama Canal's in here, maybe some disruptions of the Panama Canal. Water hardship can be exacerbated by Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Pisces, with the evil sea serpent who causes catastrophes, Gong Gong, also in Pisces right now. So I'm seeing water hardship along the eastern seaboard of the United States and Canada. I'm seeing any kind of hardship coming off the east coast of the USA into Canada. So what else could come off the sea that could be hardship for America? Because this North Node eclipse with Gong Gong, Saturn, and Neptune may indeed involve all kinds of hardships from the water, basically, whatever that could be. Take your pick. All right, so that's enough of that. Now we're going to talk about the big picture politically. I'm going to show you a chart. It will be the United States of America, and I'll tell you why. And then don't worry, we're doing world astrology first, and then we'll get to your sign. Be patient. By the way, I was watching somebody on YouTube make a very great point today, and he said, we've lost the ability to disagree or to have a dialogue or to truly debate anything. Where we're at now is we must be offended. And I thought, oh my God, he hit the heart of the matter. I think the biggest problem in the world, we have a kindness deficit and a greed overload. That's my opinion. But when he said we operate from a place of needing to be offended, and he talked about cancel culture as well, I think that's so very, very true. If I tell you that maybe Trump won't win the election, you don't respond to me by attacking me, the messenger. You could say something like, wow, that's interesting, I don't agree, or I'll see what happens over time, but I think you're wrong. That's fine. But for you to attack me because you're offended, or I share Gaza policy with you, or what's really going on with Israel-Gaza war and what's wrong with it, because it's not what it seems. To be offended is to say something like, how dare you? How dare you? So consider, as we look at world astrology, that you don't need to be offended, okay? Don't be offended. Don't take it personally, especially when it's world events. It's just astrology, trying to divine the future. Right, no, it's all it is. And I'm not American. I don't vote in America. I'm Canadian. I'm apolitical anyway. So there we go. Primer for this rest of the story. Now, this is the United States Sibly natal chart from the Declaration of Independence. I found it to be extraordinarily accurate. Therefore, debate it as you will, it times out with real events in the United States, and also with the character and comportment of the USA, who is a Sag rising. Let us be the world sheriff, right? And also sees its enemies through the lens of a Martian element. It is imperialistic, right? Mars is imperialistic. Sagittarius is bows and arrows. And the United States looks like a Sag rising to me. And it's also the positive side. We are the world, a new world order. What do you call it? The global imperative for rules-based order. Well, that would be a Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. Let's have a rules-based order. Let's follow the law. Let's follow the rules. So that makes sense to me as well. Darn it. I need to delete a bunch of asteroids that were from a client reading. They're just cluttering up the chart. Let me do that, and we'll get right back to it. And if you want to see me, I'm probably not available, but I do have priority sessions every Monday. I'm booked out, maybe a couple left in November. Otherwise, there's a wait list for when things open up. My Patreon community gets some more access to me for readings than the general public. So you might just, I'm not trying to bribe you, might just want to join and see if you like it over there. Patreon.com/lunatic astrology. So I've deleted the hot mess in the way, and let me also get rid of the timing markers that are not necessary. And here we have it. Okay, coming back to you guys. When I'm sharing the screen, I can't delete things. That's the problem. Like I have to go out of the sharing and then back in. All right, here we go. So guys, this is United States of America. Oh, I do need the ascendant midheaven. I forgot what I was doing. Ascendant midheaven will be needed for sure. All right, here we have it. And back to you. Okay. All right, so guys, United States of America. I want to talk about the history of the eclipses and how they've impacted the United States when we look at the older cycles of 2006 to 2008 And I'm not going to go back and talk about 1987 in any depth to 89. I will make some general comments because I don't have time to do all the research every time. In the comments, you can always support me by sharing your remembrances of those eras of time. United States of America in its natal sky is like 10th house, career and reputation. Oh my God. It is literally the part of the sky that defines how the world sees it, the social standing of the country, but it's the power, it's the nation in power. It's who is, it's the executive branch. It's the president. It's the house of leaders. There's a solar energy up here. And it speaks to the party. It's a two-party system, which makes it simple because if this is who's ever leading, this is the party who's trying to get into power. This is the axis of I'm the leader, and this is the down in the Pisces zone. I want to be the leader, right? A leader, and I want to be the leader. So if you think about this in our modern time, we know that the United States is now currently ruled by the Democratic Party up here, and it is the party in power. But the South Node is loss and disappointment and letting go. That is a South Node eclipse here with the node of fate still traveling. Oh, sorry. The Virgo eclipse is coming up. It's not here yet. I apologize. With the South Node will indicate some kind of loss for the party in power. Now, it could be that they lose seats in the electorate, like they're not going to do well getting a Congress and a senatorial thing going. But that eclipse in that sign is coming up next spring. And so what could it lead to that says a ending, a loss, a letting go regarding political power for the Democratic Party? The first eclipse that we have in the series is this one right here. This is going to be the North Node eclipse with the South Node still trundling through this part of the sky. For no good reason that I can't understand, I don't have my nodes in the chart. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Oh my God. You won't even want to know what it's like to be in menopause. Yes, I'm on Lion's Mane. I've got this, guys. I'm on it. Though I forgot to put the transit chart over. Okay. This is happening to me more and more. I retain a lot of data about the sky, but it's like I think I've got an overloaded brain. I need to park the data in my iCloud instead of my local data space here. So in my head. So here I would say this. Bottom line, United States of America is going to have a disappointment in the election results with a South Node spring transit backwashing from Virgo, backwashing through the sky to this election. Yet at the very same time, we can notice that with this energy here of a North Node transit in the house of the opposing party, which is Republican, or any oppositional force to leadership like RFK, that we have some expanding, growing, volume up energy for the Republican Party. However, the Republican Party is also experiencing, and so is any opposing party, the movement of Saturn through this part of the sky. And in research done by S.J. Anderson, a colleague of mine, he noticed that historically, maybe 90% of the time, when we have Saturn transiting Pisces during an election year, the party that's seeking power loses. The Republican Party is seeking power and it loses. But I'm trying to figure out why this Virgo South Node energy is also ongoing, unless we say once the party in power wins, it begins to lose traction. Does anyone have any thoughts about that? I do value your opinion. So what do you guys think? Do you think that means that the Kamala and the Democrats come into power, but in 25, they begin to lose power after they've gained it? Somehow they begin to backslide? Or do you think it is that, like in a midterm election, or do you think it's that they may win the presidency, but not the House Senate majority that we'd like, or the other way around? They get the majority in the Senate and the Congress energetically, but they don't win the presidential part of it with Kamala. I'd love to hear what you guys are intuiting on this. So let me know right now in the comments. Thank you. March the 13th, that lunar eclipse next year is on the sign of Virgo at 24 degrees. So when we get to March 13th, 2025, there is a lunar eclipse at 24 Virgo, and that's not too far from Kamala Harris's Venus in her fourth house, and may impact something in her private life. But in the world at large, when we remember that the energy of the South Node is pulling away from the United States party in power, there is difficulty after the election with whoever goes into power. Just keep that in mind, right? So you could make an argument that things look great, and then there's a suction downwards around the element of power for whoever wins this very interesting, quite possibly delayed election. The results are delayed or the election's delayed. Something's different about this one. Too much retrogradation, Pluto opposite Mars, it's intense. However, also with a lunar eclipse on March the 13th, you can go back in time. I find lunar eclipses are more active 6 weeks before than like months before, but arguably we're feeling the wave of something that's coming, like a pre-shadow, foreshadow in this part of the story. So what I wanted to mention then, just to keep it, topical, is that the United States of America, historically, when these cycles move through the sky, let me grab my little notes here. When I go back to the cycle that I was talking about in, 2006, 7, and 8, we all know what happened, right? So the subprime loan scandal toppled the stock market. That's number one. And there was a housing crisis and a housing crash. Now, it started in 2007. Not kidding you guys. The subprime loan and the crashing markets and the, oh my God, things are broken, started in the fall of 2007. In the fall of 2007 through to the fall of 2008, the whole thing was tumbling down like a house of cards. And in 2007 fall, we had an eclipse at 5 degrees Pisces, August 28th of 2027, and a September 11th eclipse at 18 Virgo. So go back to that time frame and remember, it was like a precursor energy for a downdraft or a downfall. Yet ironically, before things went tumbling downward, there were some other interesting things going on in the sky as well. And what I track that to is interesting. Of all things, just before a major market crash and downturn that required a bailout for home and stock market stuff, just before that happened, we saw weird shit going on. We saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average hitting all-time highs. Like, what the hell is that? It's like it went to an extreme and then it all fell apart. It began to tumble. I think the all-time highs were in 2008 spring and 2008 June, and even maybe just before the major tumble. So I just have a little notes on my side here. And I just said, okay, well, there was all of this intense energy going through the US Sibly chart with regards to this axis of energetics. Let me pull up the sky again because it's useful, right? I'm probably not sharing. Why is my screen so dark all the time? Sometimes I like non-max because they're so luminously bright. And I find that the max screen on full light doesn't actually look light to me at all. All right. So just going to try to get back to you guys. Hang on. It seems like I've lost you. I don't see that I'm sharing anything. Try again. There we go. So, because I want to say, I think we're in for a market crash, right? I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. And there's also a housing correction of major proportion coming off the North Node on the Cancer Libra axis. Cancer, oh my God, my brain. North Node in Gemini, South Node. We had a bunch of extension energy going on here in the sky. The North Node was in Gemini and in Cancer back, in the day. And that escalated North Node in the sign of housing, North Node. It escalated the energy of everyone buying property. And then during the eclipse, of course, during the pandemic, it extended into pandemic land in ways it would not have otherwise done, with quantitative easing, flooding the market with money, printing money. So it extended an already overripe cycle. It's like the apples were ripe and they were going to fall from the bough. And then we had a pandemic and it pushed the energy out further than it could possibly bear. it's like the economy and the housing market went out on a limb. So this is going to be a kind of a crash. It's not normally cyclically, it's not proportional to normal cyclical corrections, in my humble opinion. It's going to be more devastating in some way. But what I wanted to point out is that if you want to go back to 2006, 7, and 8, the eclipses were moving through this part of our sky, and that was activating the energies of home and homeland and where people live and have domiciles in the United States. And the whole thing was loans for bundling mortgages that were not solid into resellable products, subprime loan scandal, and banks failing and bailouts, and then stock markets tumbling and housing market tumbling. So the fourth house triggered a housing crisis, downdraft, banking, lending, mortgages, and that's the banking industry in the eighth house flowing to the housing industry in the United States chart. This is the strongest one in part banking industry, stock market, fourth house, real estate, one of the United States prime flow energies in its natal sky. So what happens is this is all repeating itself in some way. We could see an ending to all of the fluff in the housing and stock market at a very profound level, but maybe not before a strange an inscrutable increase, a frenzy of new highs before we hit a frenzy of new lows. And that's all I've got to say on that. What about politics? Obama was on the rise last time this occurred. So Obama became the president of the United States, taking over for Bush Cheney. And he was elected in this energetic cycle that's right here. He was elected during the time that the South Node went through Bush Cheney in power, South Node through the sign of Virgo, North Node through the sign of Pisces. And of course, we all know what happened. We know that the election was lost to the ruling party, and the new upcomer, Obama et al., moved into power. And so we have seen this cycle. When you think about spring of 2008, when we had eclipses still activating the part of the sky that represents the power in opposition to the Bush-Cheney legacy power, well, we saw that that led to an election cycle with a new power player. Okay, the Democrats stepped into power and Obama was leading the way. It's a little bit different because these eclipses were happening during the buildup to the election, where these eclipses are happening at the start of the election cycle. So I am not sure if it will play out as a regime change, right? But it could, because North Node expands the power of the opposing party and weakens the power of the party in power. And it is the party of the Democrats that is in power, as you know, when we have the eclipse on September 25th, and it's weakening the energy. It's strengthening the energy of the Republican Party and weakening the energy of the party in power. That's thoughts for this election. What else happened in the last cycle? We had really weird shit happening, like a terrorist plot was discovered for the JFK airport and it was subverted. So we had I think, by the way, the peaks of the stock market were 2007, by the way. When we were having irrational highs in the spring and fall of 2007 before things went downhill. So if you're a stock market analyst, let me know. But we had a terrorist plot at JFK Airport that was subverted to blow up the John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City area. We had a USA warship bomb a Somali village to kill some Islamic militants. If that isn't horrific, I don't know what is. We had Cheney take over for Bush because Bush needed a colonoscopy. So I still think that Kamala might end up taking over for Joe. And I'm recording before I've heard any news of that, but I'm recording on September 3rd. And there's some stuff coming on later this week. It looked like Joe's having some shift of his story. So the common themes for this eclipse cycle that go back to 2006 to 8. Cheney takes over the vice president for leading the country as a colonoscopy happens for Bush. Terrorist plots that could hit the United States are subverted on the eastern seaboard. And U.S. warship bombs a Somali village with Islamic militants, subprime loan scandals, and a change of power. Okay, so who knows how those stories will or will not repeat? They're just general stories. I would say, though, with this eclipse for Kamala Harris, pretty close to her Venus in her fourth house, generally opposing her midheaven. This is not an easy energy for her in her sky. And this eclipse on the 25th degree of Pisces on the 17th, 18th of September is already being felt by her. We're definitely within the entry point to that eclipse energy, and there can be some downdrafts for her. And some people say that she did not do well in her 19-minute interview with Dana Bash, CNN. Some people felt she was it was a bad setup, that she would look small next to the giant beside her walls, that she didn't really answer questions, that she was maybe not her best self. And that's an example, because she's already in the window. I know you love her, you're Democratic, you thought she did great. I know, just don't even comment. Most people who had watched it weren't like filled with joy or jazzed about what she had to say. And then what I'm suggesting is that this eclipse on the 25th degree of Pisces on the 18th or so of September is already being felt by her up to 6 weeks beforehand, and can be diminishing her Venus, which is what would give her a kind of a celebrity or a popular appeal. With Venus in her fourth house, she's not that person to stand out on a stage and wow you with herself. That's Venus in the 10th or 11th house. And her Saturn is being turbocharged by change in the 9th house, connected to the lunation in Aquarius, square Uranus on Algol. She has the signature of a hand of the queen or hand of the king. She has a signature of a great legislator. She does not have the natal signature in her tropical Western chart for a world leader. And so she's having to step up and step into a place that isn't her most comfy suit. Doesn't mean she can't do great at it. I don't. Jimmy Carter wasn't meant for leadership either, and he's considered to be an ineffective president, but a well-loved figure. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do your sign. I'm going to show you the sky just as a general principle. We're going to look for your sun, moon, and rising. Your sun can be your career and purpose, but your eternal self that plays the role of your avatar in the game of life, the matrix of life, that's your rising sign. But since you look at everything through this character, me with my one ear ring, because this ear doesn't, the holes growing in, and my white to fend off the darkness and all of that stuff. This is my Aquarius character, right? My sun is a fireball, exaltation, Aries, all right, on the fixed star Alpha Rats, which can bring me some popular appeal with the people. But that's my soul. It's full of fire. I'm like a Spock-like Aquarian mind as I play this role. So think about the soul being the actor, and the character in the game is your ascendant. And then your moon can be about your home, sometimes your body, mind, how you feel and think. It's an animating force for the character. And so it's a soul, where your sun is your spirit. Ultimately, when your moon is being listened to, look for things to do with how you feel about what's happening in your life, your emotional set points around it, or matters of change to do with your home. When you're listening for your sun, it's often about your career and purpose, the reason for being here. And then when you're listening for your rising sign, please listen in terms of the viewfinder through which you're seeing your reality. And it's probably, when it comes to eclipses, probably the most accurate. That's my thoughts. You let me know if that's true for you. And let's get started on the all signs portion of today's video. I'll be putting out a big video near the end of the year, probably in December, announcing how intense this new nodal axis will be for the world and for us individually, and diving more deeply into the Virgo and the axis of the Virgo. Give me a Virgo Pisces. And one more thing, this is an eclipse that has a planetary ruler, right? Every eclipse has got to be in a sign, and every sign has a ruler. And who is the ruler of is the question you would ask when you see an eclipse coming through the sky. And this is a Pisces eclipse. And then the ruler of the sign of Pisces is Jupiter, not Neptune. That you can't use those older, slower moving transpersonal planets, because you can't track Time Lord techniques with them. So the traditional ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter is in detriment in the house of Mercury. He's not in good shape for himself. He doesn't like the details. He's the guy with the big plan. It's like, I have a dream, and then someone's got to write the notes down to how make the dream happen. That famous speech. I have a dream, or ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Great idea. Give me the details. Where's the plan? What's the notes, the fine details. What's the actual steps I need to take? So Virgo, and Mercury signs, Gemini, are all about those details that are needed to make something happen. But Jupiter has big, big visions, and he's not the one to execute. That's why he's often the leader, and then he gets his, minions to do things. So Jupiter's not in his strongest place, and he has to look over to his Pisces house in a square, which is confrontational, and give it instructions, the eclipse instructions, the best he can. Well, he's also dealing with his own shit, and he's not feeling good. He's like, where are my assistants? Are not here. I have to act like I'm my own assistant with those details, in which the devil is in them, right? And then the final dispositor, or where the buck stops here, is Mercury, because Mercury is the planet telling Jupiter what to do, because Jupiter's in Mercury's house. The good news is Mercury's dignified in his home kingdom of Virgo, so he can execute instructions over the Pisces eclipse. He can try to be effective, but it's too removed, right? I mean, it's power by proxy, power by, I tell Jupiter what to do by what's happening in his house. You know what I mean? Like, is there any real world analogy for that? I'm not home, I'm traveling, and my home is on fire, but I'm in a bad shape because I've got COVID. I can barely function. So that's Jupiter unable to do anything with this eclipse in his sign of water, of Pisces, water hardship. He's under the weather. But it happens to be that his landlord, right? Because don't forget, Jupiter's in Gemini, and his landlord is Mercury, is doing quite fine and can totally see the house from the Virgo axis across the way. Got an eyeball on the problem in your home. Let's say a water flood. I've got COVID. I can't get to it. I can't manage the flood in my home, right? Because I'm looking at, I'm like Jupiter, and I can't get to it. I can see it, but I'm sick. I got COVID. I'm under the weather, and there's a flood in my Pisces home. And then Mercury says, wait a minute, you're in my house. I'm your landlord. I'll deal with it for you. I'll get the calls. I'll get the plumber. I'll take care of it. So ultimately, Mercury has to take care of what Jupiter is unable to effectively manage or superiorly manage in the waters of Pisces. That's the best analogy I can come up with. All right, let's go through the all signs part of the video at this time. Okay, so we're going to go over and look at the sky. We are going to do all signs. I got a bit of a bait and switch for you, though. I took a chocolate break, and I thought about, let's talk a little bit more about the charts of the two contenders in this election, because eclipses happening close to an election are wild card energies, and we do have this new energy that's not the Libra Aries cycle coming in just before the United States election, and therefore it's really relevant. It's extremely important to consider what that might mean. Let's just use Kamala and then Trump. Kamala Harris has got her Venus at 17 degrees of Virgo, almost 18 degrees. That's with an orb of the eclipse at 25 degrees of Pisces across the way. So her Venus is getting sort of stink-eyed from a lunar eclipse. The sun is on her Venus, and the moon is in the top of her sky, which is her career and her reputation. And she is going to have some eclipsing of that. So what does it mean that there's an eclipse that's going to activate a part of her sky that has to do with her career and reputation? Yet it is a north node, which can bring expansion. So it may not be the worst thing, a full moon illumination with her wounded, Chiron midheaven up here, indicating some shift going on in this part of her sky. And energetically, this axis here, right, is about the difference between her private life and her public life. So this is her Venus home alone with Pluto, and can be very secretive, very quiet, very under the cover about her private home life. She also has the asteroid Bacchus conjunct her Venus, and the asteroid Dionysius conjunct her Sun. Make that of it what you will, but that's some story that she has percolating in her sky, basically. And there's something going on with this being an eclipse or a reveal or an uncovering of something to do with her public standing that may not be visible to the world. The North Node can be positive or negative. It just means it's intensity, it's volume, it's amplification in her 10th house. At the same time, this eclipse that happens at 25 degrees is in a square relationship to the bending. It's called the bending of the nodes of fate. So her North Node on her ascendant and her South Node on her descendant indicates that there will be energy going on here. that has a highly critical factor in the destiny of her soul, because things that square the nose of fate in our natal chart or in an action like an eclipse indicate fated changes of life circumstance that are connected to her marriage partnership, her career and reputation, or her home and private life. That's basically it. Sometimes a South Node transit through the fourth house just means a change of home. That's all it means. And that South Node transit begins in January. And how would Kamala have a change of home? She'd be moving into the White House. So I'm not saying this is going to disrupt the possibility of her becoming president. I'm not saying that, but something's getting very intense for her at this time. We'll see it now all the way through until possibly post-election, until inauguration. Keep that in mind. Now, what else can I say about this for Kamala Harris? This is somebody who also could experience from the eclipse at 25 degrees down here in the sign of Virgo, something going on with her Jupiter here. And this is actually 25 degrees of 25 degrees of Pisces, and it flows to her Jupiter here. So there's something positive also coming into this eclipse for her. Even though it may be intense, it is opening up some kind of positive Jupiter events in her reality. Jupiter in Taurus retrograde brings her to a spiritual path in life, a surrender at some point to the divine, but it's also in a very spiritual house. But it's also in politics, the backroom deals and negotiations, and the people who are either her hidden enemies or her allies in negotiating her career success. So there may be some big deals going on behind the scenes for her before the election, most likely, from the eclipse in the sky. And also, I want to show you her solar return chart, because it also is indicating something very important. So we're going to clear these darn things in my way, and we're going to bring up her solar return. Then we'll look at Donald Trump. Remind you, I'm not telling you what's for sure going to happen. I'm telling you what may happen. This is her solar return birthday. Her astronomical birthday was the 21st. I believe her real birthday is the 20th. This is when the sun returns to its position of birth by degree and minute. And you can see in her solar return chart that the eclipse will be happening in the sign of Pisces, and it will be happening right here on her descendant. There could be an eclipsing or a revealing and an eclipsing to do with an opponent in her life. Your adversary, opponent, and open enemies are here. She's running for office. This is the part of the sky that, as you look at her solar return, she's acting like a Virgo, by the way. She's more Virgoian than she is Geminian. So she's got more of a Virgo disposition. Virgos want to serve. Virgos are particular, detail-oriented, but she's got more of a kind of earth groundedness here. All right, so Venus is behind her on the solar return ascendant in her temporary identity as a Virgo. She doesn't believe in herself. I mean, when Venus is in front of the ascendant, you flaunt your courage, you flaunt your self-value, you flaunt your, look at me, aren't I wonderful? Venus in front of the ascendant, look how beautiful I am. Orlando Bloom, Angelina Jolie, look how attractive I am. I believe I'm attractive. You should too. Look how charismatic and charming I am. She's temporarily got Venus on the back end of her ascendant, where it's behind her, it's in the back seat. She has not knowing how to pull out her fallen Venus into her front end of her presentation. She's not acting like a charismatic character on the stage. Trump is charismatic but obnoxious, but she's not finding yet, maybe her, unless she's reading a teleprompter, her natural flow of charisma, charm, and personableness and likability that she could have if the solar return had this Venus on this side of the ascendant. There's having a partnership at this age. You could have told me in 2023 to 24, she's going to partner up with somebody. Well, that's obviously Tim Walz. So what happens when the eclipse is happening in the house of the opponent, and it is lunar, it can reveal something about an opponent that eclipses an opponent. Donald Trump is her current opponent. It's possible Donald Trump will be ill based on his chart, or for some reason, not be on the ballot, or simply a lunar eclipse reveals something about her opponent that weakens her opponent and puts her in a more powerful position relative to her opponent, or the judicial system that's poised to strike again at Trump weakens her opponent. Something could be weakening her opponent, right? Jupiter, the Lord of Justice in the House of Courts, right, flows to her. And so any court matters involving an opponent may indeed be why she's able to prevail as the winner of the election, as a possibility. Now, the other thing you can do in a solar return chart is profect from the sun or the ascendant. And so just bear with me, would you? We can profect from her first house, meaning we say, this is a whole sign month of October, November, December, January is her fourth house. You can go play with me, right? I have a whole video about her, but look, October, November, last year, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. And this is where the eclipse is happening. It's in her 12th house of background deals and negotiations, self-undoing and self-sabotage, because it's happening in the house. It's happening in the month that she's encountering a 12th house month ruled by the sun, okay? Sun and Libra on the south node, a loss connected to voice, vocation, calling, and work matters. Okay, so it could be legal with Athena here. I don't know. So some disappointment or loss, some technical challenges to her running for the office in the month of September, from the 1st to the 30th, because the eclipse is occurring here in the 12th house on the 18th. You may expect something from the 16th to the 20th, in which she has a disturbance to her force of success of some sort. And hidden enemies are here. So she could have a hidden enemy lobbing a grenade her way in the middle of September. Or she could be her own self-undoing, defeating, person. She does something that defeats herself, which we all do. We all step on our own toes when we have an activation one month of every year, and we're in what we call a 12th house month, profecting here from the ascendant of the solar return chart. And there's many ways to profect from different charts, and this is just one of them. If we profect from her sun, which represents her career, we can go October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, right? And that means that the energy of the eclipse is happening on the identity she's carrying into the world at this time. So there's some tension in her sky from this story. Now, just a quick look at Donald Trump. I don't like Donald Trump. I do not prefer him, but I do not like Kamala Harris for other reasons. So again, I'm pretty neutral. I know why she's likable. She's a woman, and she's a woman of color, and I totally get that. I'm down, guys. I mean, let's get a female in there like yesterday, and a female of color. Let's cheer that on. But I'm not going to go into my opinions by why I don't like either Trump nor Kamala. But I would say that because I'm neutral, when I go onto Trump's chart, I want you to believe me on this one. And then Donald Trump. Yeah. All right. So this is his natal chart. There is an eclipse happening on September the 25th. September the 18th at 25 degrees of the sign of Pisces. For Donald Trump, the Pisces part of the sky happens to be, as a Leo rising, full on Leo, man. The guy in his hair, he's trying to make his hair into a mane, and he's got win, lose, Mars on the ascendant. Regulus, the fixed star for power, glory, fame, little king. He's got it all, riches. He's acting like, take it, you want Caesar or Nero, take your pick, right? Whatever you want to call it. But where the Pisces part of his chart is the 8th house. Now, that's not the worst place for an eclipse for him. It doesn't impact his physical body, for example, as easily. It happens to be all about things to do in his chart with, can be secrets, can be money that he needs, other people's money, like say Silicon Valley people are funding him, or he has to dish out money to some legal matters. So he's having a full moon revelation in reveal of something to do with his finances. It's possible there's financial reveals about money impropriety or money problems he's having coming off the 25th of September, the 18th of September, 25th degree Pisces eclipse. End of story. Not the worst thing I've ever seen in the chart of somebody running for office, honestly. The other element of the eclipse here for his chart is it does come into a square or a difficult, and it's happening on his Vestal flame of devotion. He's devoted to money. Okay. It's going to also activate in his chart a difficult relationship to his sun called a square. Sun, North Node, Uranus squares this. So there can be financial matters for Donald Trump that pop up starting around this eclipse a month before the September 18th matter, all the way through forward in time, and it impacts his great gains in his career, his celebrity, his social standing from the way he gets rewards and awards. It's a celebrity house quite often. He was apprentice, all that stuff on TV. And so it's going to take him down a bit here. Something going on in the secrets, backroom, no secrets or money stories, square his high flying sun on the North Node, born during an eclipse, all of that stuff. And the other energy going on in his chart from this particular story is that he also gets a little collateral damage to his moon. Now, his moon with the South Node on Shaula, the poisonous star, right? The stinger of the tail of the scorpion. He's been poisoned in love, right? Not love, but sex. Love and sex stories have been toxic for him. Grabbing the pea and the Stormy Daniels stuff. So he gets poisoned by romance and love stories. And this is his mother. And his mother is on a poisonous tail of a scorpion in the house of romantic love. And he says he loved his mother, but I don't know. There's something about his mother relationship makes me kind of, And so this combination, his mother was Mary, I think, this combination could indicate this eclipse also creating a T-square involves another romance scandal of some sort. I mean, we're also tired of the romance scandals, but hush money, this is hush money here. So, but this is just, we're so tired of, inappropriate behavior by any politician. We're all burned out. Pluto's back in Capricorn to reveal more gnarly underbelly of, Me Too movement kind of thing right now. So is there more dirt on Donald Trump? Really? But that's kind of what it could look like. Otherwise, he could face a real poisoning of some sort, because the eclipse has Mercury in the house of what he puts in his mouth and as a final dispositor of this eclipse. Poisoning could indicate for him. We have in this eclipse, we have Jupiter moving through here in detriment. He's having a Jupiter return. I mean, not Jupiter return. We have Jupiter moving through here in detriment in the real-time sky. Can't really manage the eclipse very well from his house of, celebrity, etc. And I mentioned this in 100 videos, but I'm wondering aloud, what does it mean that both that both Kamala's 24-degree ascendant and Trump's 22-degree sun are going to have Jupiter approaching and then backing off to retrograde? I keep saying it's like an almost coronation. Something delays because eventually Jupiter goes over both of those places when Jupiter moves direct. But Jupiter will be retrograding just before the election. A delay in the coronation of a winner is a possibility. And for Trump, will he stay in the race? I keep wondering, will he stay in the race? All right, and we're going to move on. I'm not even going to show you Trump's solar return. Remember that Kamala Harris has Saturn here. Her Saturn is sitting around 28 degrees of Aquarius, right on his descendant and his lot of fortune. If your opponent is Saturn, all right, now Saturn in a dignity in Aquarius, you have a very formidable opponent or adversary in a competition or race for the president. Saturn there, her 9th house Saturn in his 7th house, and she was a prosecutor, and that's what I mean, an attorney, that's a 9th house thing, makes for a catastrophe for him. So it can be, for example, in a debate, as much as we might not like her charm offensive in her speech, she still knows how to prosecute something verbally. She did great prosecution demonstration during the Supreme Court nomination of Kavanaugh. So we might just see that her formidable Saturnian quality opposite Trump is literally going to be the opponent from hell. And finally, we do know that he was very upset about the game-changing swap out of Biden. He picked Vance because he was looking at Biden and he was going to win anyway. So it didn't matter if he had Vance or not. A better choice would have been, in my mind, Tulsi Gabbard. I do think Elon suggested her, Elon Musk. Nikki Haley, I don't know. She's hard. There's a lot of reasons where she's smart, maybe, but he didn't. He's got Tulsi on his team now. She owes him a karmic debt in cardology. I talked about it in another video. She would have been a better pick because he would have had a well-spoken, intelligent former Democrat, bailed on the Democrats as evil warmongers, and she would have been a solid ad, but he didn't. He picked Vance, and Vance makes it look like we're in Handmaid's Tale. Oh my God. He makes MAGA look light. Okay. So it's alarming that choice happened, but that's what the sky is providing us. And if Trump steps away for illness or poisoning or something, then it's possible we have a whole game-changing new outcome, that the variables in place aren't correct. Another astrologer said they don't see Trump or Biden on the ticket. I think that's Rick Levine. But I said the same thing starting back in the beginning of this year, but more so when I did the solar ingress chart in March. And I'm like of the same mind. I didn't see either winning, but I also wasn't sure either were on the ticket. And I saw a female in power. So, let's see what happens. All right, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and do the all signs portion. Thanks for bearing with the long introduction. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get rolling. I put some asteroids in here for us today and the Sabian symbol. Sabian symbols are 360 degrees of the zodiac. Each one was channeled by Elsie Wheeler in the 30s, I believe. And the book I like to use is A Screen of Prophecy by Diana E. Roche. In the description box, I cover all the books I like to use. Let's make a few statements here. The Sabian symbol for the sky, of the degree of the eclipse at 25 degrees and 40 minutes, which is 11, by the way, divine justice number in the tarot. This eclipse is going to be, 5, 2, and 4, right? No, yeah, 5, 9, 10, 11, yeah. So this eclipse is going to be on the 26-degree Sabian of the sign of Pisces. And when we do Sabian symbols, I want you to remember you always round up. And I like to include an eclipse where the sun is as well, because the sun is also connected to an eclipse. You cannot have this lunar eclipse without the sun across the way. So let's start with the moon itself, which is being eclipsed. And we're looking for the 26th degree of Pisces. And that's going to give us a big clue about some of the archetypal or symbolic or spiritually symbolic quality to this lunation. A new moon that divides its influences, keyword finesse. I'll repeat that to you again. At 26 Pisces, the Sabian is a new moon that divides its influences. Okay. So it's actually a full moon, ironically, that it divides its influences. Something new wants to start, but its influences are divided. The accent can be on all kinds of things here, but let me read it to you. It talks about keywords: uncertainty, tentativeness, irresolution, qualm, reluctance, ambiguity, ambivalence, doubt, apprehension, hesitation, questioning, reservation, timidity, vacillation, misgivings, mistrust, and indecision. Those words are going into your election in the United States of America, but it impacts the world, what happens in the United States. And so this is a quality of a new moon in an election season that has certain qualities that sound pretty damn daunting. And then we move to the sun. It's on a Virgo 26, a boy with a censer. A censer is a incense burning thing for religious activity, spiritual activity, SENSER. And the keywords for the sun on 26 Virgo Sabian roundup is outreach, aspiration, worship, prayer, appeal to the divine, benediction, consecration, adoration, spirituality, rapture, bliss, and holiness. Keep in mind, it is eclipsing the moon, this event, not the sun, but we have a contrary energy across the way with a dignified Mercury next to it to say that something spiritual can emerge from something uncertain and difficult at the very best. As soon as we go into division, we think of parties, right? I think about, there's nothing more divided in the United States between the red and the blue right now. And this lunation doesn't make it any easier. And it's happening as a full moon lunation in the house of the party that opposes the Democrats. And so again, what the heck is that? Let's see what happens. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about are these asteroids bundled up here and this one here. Let me say a few things about asteroids. They're like the devil is in the details. The minor details tell you the tale. You need punctuation marks to make a sentence make sense. And the asteroids help us do that in astrology. We have 24,000 named asteroids around the asteroid belt, the crushed planet that's a rubble stream between the destroyed planet that is a rubble stream between Mars and Jupiter. And Jupiter is what keeps those asteroids from falling toward the sun. His gravitational pull keeps the asteroids from pummeling the Earth. So that's why he is the greater benefic. It's an astronomical story that correlates with his given traits in astrological stories, because astrology and astronomy are the same thing. Astrology is just the use of astrology for divination and understanding the algorithmic code of our sky so we can make the best of it. Now, look, guys, this is a lot of activity over here, right? There's a Jupiter getting ready to retrograde in October, and he's sitting with these three asteroids. Now, easily enough, this is Pan. That's the closest square. The other two are less intense. The other one is Phaethon, and this one I'll never be able to pronounce. Gikun Hom Dima. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you about all of them because Jupiter is with a hand-holding line of people. And of course, Pan is panic, pandemonium, and pandemic. It is like the Green Man, yes, and it's a little bit about ecstatic forest nymphs and revelry, but whatever. But it's also when we use asteroids, we go with the meaning. If it sounds like pan, it could be pandemic, pandemonium, or panic. There's a whole bunch of chatter that we might have a particularly gnarly return of a pandemic. Well, it's possible for sure with this part of the sky. I'm still not convinced of it. I almost feel like we're too tired to do a pandemic again. And maybe I'm just being hopeful, but I don't know that I'm feeling it. But here we go. And here we go. Right? And here we go. And what do we get? We get a square between this bundle of asteroids and Jupiter and the eclipse itself at 25 degrees. And Jupiter's only 5 degrees away from the eclipse. So he's an orb of that, right? And in essence, we're sort of wondering what the big tension is about here, because Jupiter's trying over here to manage this eclipse in his house, but he's not in his best condition. Mercury's the final dispositor looking over at it and telling Jupiter what to do. Hi, Jupiter, I'm helping you. You can't, like I said, you're sick with COVID. I'll take over. I'm your landlord and I'll fix the problem in your house or something like that. But it's not an easy looking sky just in that regard. I do like Pluto here, but he's transgenerational. He does flow to whatever his Neptune's doing with the moon. Has something to do with a long game of humanity's evolution. So let me tell that if you have sea hardship and gongs in here, early part of Pisces, Saturn, sea god Neptune retrograde, it could just be pandemonium or panic around a catastrophic weather event like a fast-moving hurricane or a tsunami, which would make panic and pandemonium happen. If it's pan, connected to actual pandemic, because Neptune is conjunct this eclipse, and Neptune rules viruses and things that make us sick that we can't see, including drugs that make us sick or healthy, we can sense that maybe we could have another pandemic. So all of this is possible, but is it probable? I don't know. I haven't found enough to convince me that we're having a pandemic yet. Good news is we have all of these retrograde outer planets moving into a mini grand trine. That's going to be highly activated next year, and it's very blessed. So we're all going to get through it no matter what. But I would say pandemonium, etc., is going on here for some reason in the 6 months that follows this eclipse. Sometimes lunar eclipses are much more obvious to you in the first 30 days. It may be 30 days, but in the first 3 months than anything else. And let's talk about those two other minor asteroids that are involved with Jupiter and are also squaring the sun and the moon by orb. So they are counting. So they're new to me. My software, lovely software with Astro Gold, updated the software. Oh, I thought I got rid of those annotations. Yeah. So I have a lot more options now to use, which I'm really liking. I used to only have Bacchus. Now I got Bacchus and Dionysius. I have Bacchus on my Mars, Dionysius on my Venus. I come by my love of wine for good creds, right, on my chart. So, and I'm not an alcoholic, okay? Just trust me on that. Bacchus, Mars, trine my Neptune, not square it. Let's take a look at the other two asteroids now, and let me talk about it with you. And the first asteroid I'm going to talk about is the one I can't pronounce, but what the heck, let's do it. Gikun Homedima. And this is an asteroid that is Gikun Homedima, celestial body 22962, maybe a trans-Neptunian. The beautiful Aardvark girl in the midst of people of Nambia, so African. She defends her people and punishes wrongdoers using spines, a rain cloud full of hail. So she's a goddess that protects the people through spiny and hail-like things. Hail hitting ground reminds me of missiles in our modern world. Spines can be prickly things like poisons or something. A deep need to protect one's family or tribe, and a need to hold others accountable for their transgressions. Anywhere in the world where you think that people are not being held accountable for their transgressions, or other people feel that there's no accountability for transgressions, anywhere in the world, not in the United States, it could be due to the Middle East conflict, accountability for transgressions can be moted out by this eclipse that's happening in the sky at this time. So look for retribution for transgressions coming through the story of hail and spines, whatever that might look like in a modern context. Connected to a square, right? A square to Neptune, with a eclipsed lunation in Pisces, which again brings us back to water. So if there's a retribution, it's connected to land and shore and water bodies. And Pisces represents homeless, displaced, refugee people. And there's no more displaced, refugeed, homeless people tragically dispossessed of their homes than in Gaza. And who would want to have retribution for that? The Gazans have no power. What other person, country, movement in the world would want to create some reckoning, right, around that? So again, you get the gist, right? The other, and this is anytime a month before this eclipse and up to 6 months after. So it's not a one-day story. And the other asteroid we're going to talk about sitting here is Phaethon, Phaethon. All right, Phaethon. Now let's talk about him, because he's also sitting exactly with the asteroid with the hail and the spines and the retribution for unpunished deeds kind of vibe, or accountability is needed yesterday already. Let's get with it. Phaethon, let's talk about that. This is a body 3200, son of Greek god Helios, the sky god who drags a chariot across the sky. He operated a solar chariot for one day, lost control of the chariot and almost set fire to the earth, and then moved too far away from the earth and almost froze the earth, killed by a lightning bolt from Zeus. Okay, so he was destroyed by Zeus. And the interpretation of the software talks about being reckless, feeling out of control, or you've taken on more than you can handle, hard time keeping to the middle of the road, burn the earth or freeze the earth. However, he almost set fire to the earth, and he's sitting with the planet, the celestial body that I can't pronounce, for holding people accountable through hail and spines. It automatically brings to mind weapons that fly through the sky. So burning the earth, it may be an overstatement, but it could also be a volcano. So let's see what happens. Sometimes Mother Nature plays out retribution that humans don't have to. Remember the idea of, there's some old thing about, don't seek justice or revenge, let God do it, divine justice. The order will be restored through divine cosmic forces that punish the evildoer, so to speak. So we may not need to do anything when we see divine injustices in the world. It's not ours to do. We stand up for what is good and true in our own view, but we don't have to mete out punishment for justice. Justice can be attained by the natural order of things. And so maybe a weather event is divine justice. Let me give you an example. There could be a catastrophic weather event that punishes a country instead of a war event. And it's as if they were punished, but not by weapons or the enemy, but by divine justice, whichever country in the world. I'm not picking anybody. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, United States, China, pick your moving target. All right. So that's the story. Let's go ahead and talk one more thing and we're done. Pandora unleashed the ills upon the world. She was the first mortal woman created by stealing fire from the gods. What's his name? Prometheus and Athena. And they made a woman, a girl, first human female, just the Adam and Eve story. And she was told not to look in this box. It was a trick. She looked in the box, and all these ails fell out of her box, and it was supposed to be an urn with a cap on it. And it meant like plague, disease, murder, war, all these ails befell the earth. And she closed the box before she saw the last little piece that could come out of her box, like a bird, was hope. So when you see Pandora, you can think about hope in the box. Hope in the box. Oh my God. Remind me of a funny video I watched one time, Hope in the box. And Hope in a box, okay, coming off an eclipse over here. It flows to this eclipse flows to Pandora's box. Okay, the sun flows in a sextile. There is hope in the box. No matter what calamity this eclipse unfolds in the 6 months that follows, including pandemic and panic stock selling and pandemonium for weather events or whatever else goes on, there's hope in the box for humanity. That's what I see here. That's where I'm going. The darkest days can provide the greatest dawn, the light of dawn, right? We saw it with 9/11. It was a squandered opportunity to create peace and harmony in the world, as even the enemies of the United States felt sorry for the United States. And instead, the United States went to war for non-existent weapons of mass destruction. I would like you to know that because I was friends with people in the 3-letter agencies when I lived in the DC area, I knew there were no WMDs months before you guys, years before you guys knew it. And I had to watch the country well, I lived in at the time go to war, knowing from intelligence sources who were friends that they were so disenchanted they wanted to leave their intelligence jobs because the government was going to war, and they were told by the intelligence there are no weapons of mass destructions, and the United States went to war anyway. So I bring that up only because, why did I bring that up? There's hope in the box. Oh, because the United States squandered the 9/11 event, and it could have been harnessed for a greater, instead of imperial hegemony and militaristic domination of the world, it could have been harmonized into goodwill for the world itself to come together despite opposing beliefs and religious structures. That's my humble opinion. Now we're done. That was a friggin' long intro. Again, I hope you enjoy that kind of thing. I'm off that story. We're moving into your sign. We're starting, as always, with Aries. Let's get going. And is the chart showing, guys? Yes. Not starting with Leo. It just confuses people if they come into the Zoom room. I mean, into the live premiere where I'm watching the video with you, and they're thinking about Pisces already, and they leave. So we always start with Aries. It is zodiacal order. Sorry, Pisces, you're stuck with it forever and ever and ever. You'll never be first. But you are wise and mystical. You're the mystic poets of the zodiac. You don't need to go first. Depending on your time zone, this eclipse is happening either on the 17th or the 18th, like it's in the evening before midnight in the eastern coast, and then in Europe it's of course happening on the 18th. So it's not so important when the time of the eclipse is. It's a broad destiny wave flow that's impacting you for months, not a day, not an event of the day. All right, so let's go. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. Am I recording? Yes. So you've been through an eclipse cycle, like heyday, right? We've had eclipses in Aries ever since April of 2023, April of 2024, next March 29th, 2025, another eclipse in the sign of Aries. So you're not done yet. You're not done. You're still in your own cycle. So you're busy with this North Node, expanding yourself, growing yourself bigger, amplifying who you are, trying to find the boundaries of your identity. How big do you want to grow? Are you overgrowing too fast? Inflationary growth of identity can happen here. You might burn out. You might blow up. You might be the balloon that pops. I'm an Aries sun, moon, and Mercury. I can relate. I'm expanded and blown up really quickly on my channel, and I'm facing decisions to avoid burnout. So you Aries all have kind of expanded. I know in Aries you got married and expanded your business. And we're all expanding, growing, and we're looking for worldly success. Take that off the table. Something new is coming. This is the first teaser, tidbit of what is on the way for the next couple of years. What is on the way goes back to vibrational frequency events that happen in your life, Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. I lost the picture. Then what goes back to your life in 2006 to 2008, like early 2008, and 1987 to 89. And if you want to just think of those years in general, then you can say, what was I doing in my life in this part of my sky and this part of my sky, because it's always a dumbbell, right? What did it do for me back then? Because it's just going to repeat and rinse and rinse and repeat, even though certain factors are different, right? So this is a 12th house. This is your own self-sabotage and self-undoing. This is your hidden enemies. This is travel to far off shores and lands can happen here. Spiritual attainment and full liberation, moksha, spiritual journeys, like inward and outwardly. Sometimes it instigates a desire to learn and study. Quite often people go into school settings from eclipses through here because it's angular to the learning houses. And it also asks you what it is you are wanting. Oh, and you can get international borderless income and revenue through digital products, etc., or working for an international company, those sorts of things. But you were expanding here in 1987, and you were expanding here 87 to 89 and 2006 to 2007. What do you think it's about this time? Because the North Node propels you to advance forward. And in 87, for me, because I'm an Aries sun, to 89, if I go back to that time in my life and ask myself how I was moving forward here, what was happening, I was working in New York City as a magazine editor, right? And I was deepening my spiritual life. I was studying, I was reading books like Autobiography of a Yogi. I was diving deep into UFO stuff. I was diving deep into things that connected me to alternate spiritual wisdom. I was living at the Magical Child bookstore down in Chelsea, for those New Yorkers who remember it. Every lunch hour when I got off of my Chelsea job, I could even see the Statue of Liberty on the way to work. Not Statue of Liberty, I mean the Empire State Building. I would go down to wherever this was. I think it was between 6th and 7th, maybe on 19th or 18th Street. And I would go to that bookstore. So this is the deepening of your spiritual path yet again. This is me in 80. I'm just giving me as an example. I'm not going to talk about me all the time. I'm just trying to show you what to look for, right? Just get a vibe going here. Mm-hmm. And 2006-07, it propelled me to work on my master's in transpersonal psychology. And I was in the second year of a 3-year program. But I started that second year after taking a hiatus. So it's Lori going back to school. So it trigger learning for me. And it was this axis here that got activated. So let me know what you guys were doing back then as fellow Arians that vibes out with this story. Now, this energy this time is with Neptune, not like the other times. And it's first time with Neptune. And Neptune is definitely about spiritual attainment. Where can you completely transcend this duality, come in contact with oceanic consciousness, oneness, non-duality, and the complete opening to compassion and unconditional love? There's no doubt about it. With this eclipse conjunct Neptune, which has not happened in your lifetime, this is a story that opens up the portal of non-ordinary awareness and deeper spiritual attainment for all of those Aries looking for that direction. Otherwise, Neptune rules YouTube, Instagram Reels, videography, modern moving imageries, filmmaking, Hollywood storytelling. These are openings for you. 12th house is back end stuff you're doing privately behind the scenes. You might be working on screenplays, musical projects, things to do with photography, storytelling, visionary ability, or you might also be exceeding your expectations of capital and financial growth using YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram Reels. These are Neptunian platforms to grow your international income. That's basically it. Go for it. I like it. I don't know. Square Jupiter. There are some hiccups. Forget about all these asteroids. Like, I don't want to tell you about your panic pandemonium. Make it simple. Jupiter is here. Jupiter wants to advance you forward in your third house of social media, online, trips and travel, learning and learning opportunities, teaching and teaching opportunities. He's gung-ho. He's under the weather in the wrong sign. So he wants it to work here, and Mercury has to give him the go-ahead. So you have a lot of energy. It's dynamic. It requires challenges, but you can succeed in your work. The work you do in the world. What is the work you do in the world? You want to do the work you do in the world, and you want to blow it out on Jupiter's note in great expansion and growth, writing, communicating, selling, marketing, online world, siblings, neighbors, local travel, neighborhood events. Okay. That's about it. I don't want to say too much about that. It's just what it is. With Pluto finishing up in your back end here, back ending into till mid-November, in your 10th house, at least from the eclipse till mid-November, a lot of career opportunities or career growth or career learning or career expansion comes back into your awareness as you finish a finish line of some kind of powerful transformation in career and reputation that began in 2008 in your sky. No, Aries has had a career path that has been steady as she goes. You've been in and out and up and down. You've been powerful and wealthy, and you've been poor and struggling. It's been all over the map. But Pluto has been teaching you since 2008 to source authentic, evolutionary, divine willpower and let it use you through your career and reputation narrative. Okay. And this eclipse supports that energy in a sextile from the 12th house of what you do in the backroom deals and negotiations as well. Get rid of addictions if you want, because this is your addictions house, self-undoing, opposite the house of health, right? And you may be able to bust out of an addiction, especially with Neptune here, and completely let it go for the very first time in your life. And Saturn gives you the backbone to do it and the structures to let go of that thing, substance or bad habit pattern and self-sabotaging patterns. Let it go, bust through, gone, done, never to return ever again. One more thing, quickly. The North Node is still in your house of you. So this is also saying you. It's all about you. Whatever you do here transforms your identity in the world, and the character itself and the avatar in the game of life takes up new skills, new talents, new abilities in the video game that you didn't have before, because this is what is happening in this branching of two houses for you, where deep stuff, karmic stuff, stuff to do with your soul, breaches the fence, and you get the soul infusion, the deeper aspect of you, the transpersonal and unlimited you to come into the real character of you in the game of life. It's like God steps into a body or something. So you have this big, profound shift of identity coming in the 6 months that follows this lunar eclipse. You will not feel the same at the end of this journey. There's no two ways about it. You will feel transformed personally in the identity of you. If it's your sun, it's your career that transforms dramatically. If it's your moon, it's your body mind complex and your home and nest. And if it's your rising sign, your whole character in the game of life is transformed from a deep spiritual impulse beyond this world. Oh, goodness gracious, we jumped right over. Oh my God, you know why? I'm set for Iceland. I had a client in Iceland, and this has got such a skew. I have to move us out of Iceland. Give me a minute. Because of the latitude, longitude, the skew is insane. And this is what happens when you do your charts, by the way, in non-whole sign houses, and you do Placidus. You end up with this horrible skew that, you will have one giant first house taking up all the space, and your midheaven can be in your 12th house. And so please don't use Placidus as a modern invention. I mean, I'm a zealot about it. I've not found any value in Placidus myself. All right. How to cast your chart in whole sign houses and why? Free video tutorial in my description box below. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. We're getting through this, guys. It's not going to be a 4-hour video. You got an eclipse like you had in 2006 to 2008, 1987 to 1989, the vibe of this axis being alive and awake. And this is something that's back again for an 18-year, repeat, rinse, repeat. But what about Neptune? So let's talk about it. First of all, the 11th house of good spirit is a good house, and that's where it's occurring. It's about your karmic rewards at the very basic level. Divine dividend checks are arriving here, including windfalls. So nothing too bad ever happens in this house. Keep that in mind. Friendships, friendships and circles of groups of belonging, people you connect with in groups of belonging, clubs and tribes that you call to yourself, your chosen family, elder sibling, and friends and benefactors, allies, and hopes and dreams and wishes, and career gains, especially directly from the 10th. I won an Academy Award. I got a massive, amount of celebrity. I got a promotion. Okay. So this part of your sky is active, and it's active starting on the eclipse, but a month before and 6 months after. So it's not a one-day show. And possibly with the infusion of Neptune, you may also see something very magical and mystical in the story as well. Let's go back, though, and remind yourself that this has happened before, just without Neptune being complicit in the narrative, let alone with Saturn. it flows to you in a sextile, you don't mind this eclipse, Taurus. You're like, yeah, bring it on, bring it on. It feels good. You even trying the South Node eclipses. You're down for the change. You're down for the ride. You want to get on that, that roller coaster. You're happy with it. So that's another thing, not to worry about it. So you guys are complicit with the eclipses as well, and you want the changes they're going to bring. With this energy, you could have an eclipsing of a friend, but with a full moon, a revelation. You see the friend in a new light, your delusional rose-colored glasses come on and off, and you realize, especially with Neptune retrograde, that this friend is not your friend or your type of friend. And Saturn says, let's prune it back, let's constrict your friends. So a friend bites the dust, is a possibility. An elder sibling, one above you, has something going on in their life that is also to do with maybe a revelation or a revealing in relationship to you, the one above you sibling, the 11th house. Now, you have wishes and dreams and hopes for your life. We all do. It's our long-range plan, our 5-year plan, our 20-year plan, our fantasies. And that's an 11th house because it looks towards the 10th and it's asking, what do you want? And because you get the gains of the 10th here, right? It's reciprocal. What do you actually want from your career? What do you want from your life's purpose? What are your long-range goals? An eclipse is revealing in a lunar light, an eerie partial eclipse, what it is you really want. Some revelations can come off the eclipse in the months that follow that show you a deeper, especially with visionary Neptune, imaginal Neptune, you can begin to imagine new dreams for your life coming off of this eclipse. And you may have revisioned your life in the similar way in the other eclipse cycles I've already outlined for you. This eclipse has also got a square to Jupiter, and that means that there's something here that can be a little bit tense. Maybe you are wanting to expand your earnings, make more money, be lucky in your money and earnings and savings, grow your financial resources. That's Jupiter here. And yet you have to deal with the square energy, which makes it a little bit complicated. And Jupiter's in rough shape, and he looks to Mercury for help. Well, that's not too bad. Mercury's with the sun and looks at the eclipse. So quite possibly, even though he's opposite Saturn, there is a need to be realistic and structured and go for the long game in the way you wish to build greater financial prosperity, especially through till next June when Jupiter's still in your second house, but also connected to this house, entrepreneurship, creativity, joy, sex, romance, fun, play, pleasure, fertility, children. Mercury might say you can get more career gains as a long-term goal, and this is a career gain house, and you need to be realistic about it and conservatively steadfast in how you increase your career gains. But you need to remember to have fun. Mercury's a comedian, the jokester, the trickster. He's a very social energy, and he's in your 5th house of joy and enjoyment. So there's a need to find the financial expansion you want through the incursion of joy and an authentic enthusiasm that Mercury can engender in your 5th house. Jupiter does rule your 8th house of chunky money, including inheritances and other monies shared with a spouse or whatever, real estate, mortgages, banks, investments in the markets. But it's possible that with a sextile to Pluto, some Tauruses will come into some money that isn't directly earned in the 6 months after this eclipse. Okay. I don't know if it's an inheritance. The sun rules your family of origin and it's in the eclipse. So mom, dad, grandparents, or if it's money you get through a financial settlement or a divorce, but some of you Tauruses will come into some chunky money in the 6 months that follows this eclipse and the month before. All of it is possible. And lastly, the eclipse is connected to a nodal involvement still in Aries. And what would it mean for you? Well, it's indicating that some of this revisioning of your goals and this maybe money that could come unexpectedly also involves hospitals, sane asylums and prisons, or people from far off foreign shores or international places, and possibly deep spiritual insight. But Chiron North Node can be somebody in, a hospital setting, yes, sorry, and perhaps with Pluto, especially father figures in this chart for multiple reasons. So grandpa, elderly dad, something like that. Some of you can come into some money. The North Node has been trying to wake you up spiritually and grow your spiritual life, take it into action during that eclipse cycle. I don't know if you've been using it or losing it, but again, going deeper into your soulfulness and into your isolation and finding solace in being alone. A lot of times a North Node eclipse through the 12th house kicks addictions. Many people I know who are Tauruses have or are in the process of kicking a addictive substance of any kind. And alcohol is an addictive substance for everybody. We just get addicted at different rates of addiction. So people, alcohol is not addictive. Even weed can be addictive. So you know what you're addicted to, folks. A Chiron, the healing, a North Node. So there can be that in this eclipse as well, because the moon is opening up deeper, higher visionary goals for your life, and not just temporary pleasure, but deep joy and satisfaction in life. So some of you are moving out of that cycle of addictions if you've been struggling. And I don't mean you have to be an AA level addict. Come on, let's be serious. We all have habits that don't serve us, even if they're moderate. She speaketh to herself. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about you guys. You're a Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. This is not champagne. This is kombucha. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. So the sky is opening up a doorway here of the first eclipse in Pisces since 2006 to 2008, 1997, 87 to 1989. So you want to compare those times of your life and the eclipse in Pisces in your 10th house of career. So right away, we just simply go, oh, wow, you're expanding your career over the next couple of years, right? That's going to be a North Node eclipse cycle. A change of career, expansion of career, shift of career, destined changes in career. It's that darn simple. Geminis will change career path as a result of these eclipse cycles. Something's growing, expanding, or changing. And go back to hindsight is 2020, and please make some comparisons to see if that's true. Now, at the very same time that is happening for you, and you've gone through this before, you haven't had Neptune here. And that's a brand new feature. And Neptune is like, okay, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels, music, filmography, video, Hollywood, photography, glamour. These are career types, Neptune career things, okay? Sound healing. So if you work in those fields, and I do, I have a progressed sun in Gemini, no, your progressed planets are not better than your natal or primary. You definitely are like me with my sun there, right? Gemini suns. I have a Gemini progressed sun, but rising sun and moon are going to experience some positive developments if we use these kinds of career paths. Like, let me write that screenplay yesterday, finish that novel. Let me make my YouTube channel 100,000 plus or even more. You see what I'm saying, right? So you're going to use the Neptune energy for an expansion, and a moon is being eclipsed. So there's a visionary experience of revealing what's next, showing you the way that the change should occur. And with Saturn in a structured, masterful, slow, and conservative manner, nothing shifts overnight here. This eclipse can tell you that is true over the 6 months that follow it and up to a month before. Now, the eclipse is also squaring Jupiter, and Jupiter is in detriment. So with Jupiter square, why do I have the midheaven still in there? Okay, I'll fix it later. No, I'll fix it later. What am I doing? I'll fix it later. The midheaven is gnarlily still in the picture. We don't need it. Okay. But the point I want to make is that you're looking at this energy of square to Jupiter. You are Jupiter. Hey, guys, you Geminis are like, look at me. I'm King of Mount Olympus. I'm Santa Claus. I'm ho, ho, ho. I have so much faith, hope, and optimism. I'm healthier than I'm ever been, or I'm getting healthy. I'm getting chubby or fat. I'm pregnant. My girth is expanding. All these happen when Jupiter is moving through our ascendant, basically for you guys who are ascendant and maybe moon secondarily. But you're still moon, sun, and rising, feeling this big Jupiter vibe. You become Jupiterian, and people see it in you, and you are leaderful, you are powerful, you are magnetic, and you are dragging everyone into your field of energy because of it. So that's the golden touch, the 4-leaf clover, your horseshoe. Everywhere you go, you've got the golden touch. So Midas touch, etc. But Jupiter is always overreaching a bit here because he doesn't have the details. You feel positively excited about your life, but what are the details? Squaring the eclipse and squaring the sun, Mercury at the bottom, and opposite Saturn. So this is the story, something like this. You're trying to expand and grow. Be careful you don't overinflate because you don't have the details you need to grow yourself that quickly. And you might have some rose-colored glasses about what you're capable of achieving in your career mastery and authority, because basically within 2 years, you're probably going to step away from that career and move in a new direction. Most of us, Gemini informed folk, and then like even retire. This is a retirement transit that can happen here around the ages of, well, it doesn't matter the ages. It's just having Saturn at the top of the mountain, getting ready to climb back down. And the bottom of the chart is Mercury. He's helping Jupiter. He's the final dispositor. And so Mercury is saying something like, well, if you want to really level up this career and being very visionary and imaginative and faithfully structured and disciplined and expanding your range of your footprint of yourself, Jupiter, you need to remember that Mercury's at home in the dark at midnight in the house, the fourth house. What does he do down here? Well, in Virgo, he writes. He's a writer. He's a sacred priest, and he's keeping a temple fire alive in the home. He can act very much like a magician from the home. He could also market, sell, and merchandise from the home. He can communicate and write from the home. Everything, all the success up here depends on Mercury working for you in the fourth house of your home. This can include, of course, buying and selling homes as well. And also, Mercury is telling this eclipse, because he's opposite Saturn, hey, everyone, there is a constriction or a constraint or a restraint in what can happen here because I'm pulling strings from the fourth house. Mercury might say, if you don't do these writing, selling, marketing, communicating things in and from your home, I got the final say in it all. You're not going to get the momentum you want here, even as it is gradual. This is the first eclipse in your career, reputation, visible actions in the sky that you're having over the course of 3 more eclipses in the sign of Pisces. And so this story doesn't really even finish up for 2 years. The South Node, North Node. Okay, the North Node is still here. North Node is still in the sign of Aries. And therefore, how is it that what you're doing in your career is trying to align you with your deepest wishes and dreams for your life, the expansion of your reach over groups of people, the connection to great gains from your career? That was what wants to expand, larger connection to groups, larger influence over groups. And this eclipse could also bring you in an influential new person, a benefactor, ally who wants to help promote you or share you with the world. Could do that as well. You're finishing up business in the 11th house, right? Like more celebrity, more influence, more public popular appeal, more group momentum. And that's completing. You've been wounded here, right? In friendships ever since Chiron got here in 2019. Now, I'm a progressed son, and I can relate. I moved to Montreal, I had no friends, a pandemic hit, I had no friends, I was alone in a house by myself. I didn't take an unnecessary, unsafe protocol, and I couldn't travel in my country or anywhere else. And I was locked in. My friends would say, we're going to dinner, you want to come? I say, I can't go to the museum, I can't go to the cafe, I can't go to the dinner with you, I can't go to the gym, because I didn't take an unsafe on a protocol that didn't prevent transmission. So I felt wounded in my circle of friends for a long time, even just being a single friend with my married friends not inviting me to shit. So when a lot of us Gemini energetically felt that for a long time. So we could also be seeing a turning point in this wound around friends. Okay. It's still the last eclipse over here working its way, the last nodal story over here working, not last, there's one more next year, working its way through your reputation and career house. I think people, in essence, people are going to come to you to support you, almost like you have a bunch of cheerleading benefactors, allies, and friends in the expansion of a longer story of you expanding and your career expanding with you. Okay. At this pace, we're going to be here for 5 hours. Let me try to pick it up. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. In the sky, we have an eclipse. It's a cycle that you've seen, as I said, 87, 89, 2006 to 2008. What you're doing is yet again expanding your 9th house of God. It could be higher education, college, university, campuses, legal and court matters, foreign visas, land travel, connections to third marriage partners, third marriage environments, things to connect you to spiritual and religious faith. and dharma and the meaning of your life. All right. All of those things are expanding, growing, and elevating in 2 years ahead. This is the first taste of it. This taste of it, however, right, it has to deal up a square to Jupiter, and Jupiter's in your 12th house of self-undoing and foreign lands. And we have 2 foreign lands houses here, indicating a lot of connection to foreigners and foreign lands being opened up by this eclipse, as they have a Jupiter element in it as well, unlike, necessarily the other times, which Jupiter was not in your 12th house. This is a very intense energy as well, because not only is there Jupiter square, but it's squaring the Mercury-Sun combination across the way like that. And it puts you in a gritty T-square. And the gritty T-square is kind of suggesting along the lines of your ability to learn, go back to school, to study or to teach, to travel, to find a spiritual philosophy, whether the house of the god or goddess is going to win the day, that really works for you. And with Jupiter here, so you can receive enlightenment, moksha, and spiritual liberation. That's the upside. Otherwise, you've published a book and you want to make international revenue. Otherwise, you're going to be a professor and you're going to have international students. Otherwise, you're going to, get some really empowered stories going on with your neighbors, neighborhood siblings, connected to your travel house, connected to your foreign lands house. It's a tough one. I would simplify it to say Jupiter wants in the 12th house you to either learn or study something you need or want to study, this meaningful and dharmic, or teach it. Or Jupiter wants you to meet a guru or a guide or a mentor. And with the Saturn up here and the Neptune, this is a spiritual house, the house of God. This is a spiritual tradition, right? This is not New Agey, right? But it's a mystical sign. So what are the mystical traditions? Kabbalah, Sufism, right? Contemplative Christianity. You would be inclined to move towards a mystical tradition that's already existing with a visionary, unconditional love, enlightenment vibe. And this could bring you a teacher. So I'm going to suggest that some of you Cancers moving into that path will find a spiritual guide, teacher, or spiritual path emerging from this story. With Mercury in the house of the goddess, again, it brings us more to the divine feminine, or things to do with looking for the magic or the sacred in the everyday as well. If your ICMC axis and whole sign houses is in houses 9 and 3, you may move your home to a foreign land and move your home to another country in the 6 months that follows the eclipse. What about the North Node? The North Node is saying, well, a lot of the study you do is for your career and reputation, or a lot of the teaching is connected to your career and reputation. A lot of the travel is connected to your career and reputation. A lot of the legal matters that are percolating is connected to your career and reputation, because the social standing, career and reputation house is implied here with the North Node being anchored to an eclipse in Pisces. All righty? And Pluto supporting from Best Supporting Actor, Pluto from the house of your marriage partnership, Pluto going back here to November 19th, the last gasp of energy to consolidate revelations, power, transformation in marriage and business-like partnerships. And so remember, you got support from Pluto. So a lot of this allyship comes from the powerful transformation of your committed love house, as well as you travel, study, move your home, find your spiritual faith anchors, etc. If you're single, you could start dating somebody from a foreign country through travel opportunities and find a new soul path with a deeply spiritual person. That's a possibility as well. Wow. Let's keep on, guys? Why do I have the midheaven in here? I want to get that out. The midheaven is not necessary in this chart. Goodbye, midheaven descendant and all that stuff. Goodbye, everybody. Coming back. And back. All right. Am I sharing? Yes. And we move into the next sign, which is Leo. Leo sun, Leo moon, and Leo rising. In the sky, you've got this archetypal energies of an eclipse, which is a wave of destined change. In the Pisces part of your chart, which is chunky money, that's just one meaning. It's your deep secrets, it's your soul having moksha liberation from this matrix because it no longer believes in the egoic character that you pretend you are. The fictional self can dissolve like a cocoon butterfly molting and melting here. So a lot of spiritual awakening could happen from this transit for sure. It's like you don't believe your character anymore. You're falling away from, dissolving away from the limited identity of the small self. So keep that in mind, Leos. But also, hey, money is here. Money you get in inheritance, money you share with your marriage partner, money you have from investments, shareholder money and retirement funds invested in the markets, money from insurance companies and mortgages and credit cards and bank loans. Okay. All that money is here. And we have an eclipse here. And you can't see the moon. The moon was too quickly. The moon was here. So the eclipse is saying something like, are you going to shed a light on those kinds of money stories, including tax structures, so that you can make a choice to make changes there that are essential to increase your long range money and long range chunky money with your partner, with yourself, with your business partners. So there's an increase in that kind of money over the course of this 2-year cycle of eclipses in Pisces. Yet at the same time, you might wonder about this eclipse is squared Jupiter, and Jupiter is benefic, but in detriment. And he's in the house of great gains. And these great gains come from the people of the 11th, as well as karmic justice. As do you? Karmic dividend checks and windfalls. So we got 2 money places here, and this is the gains from your career as well. So you can have great career gains amplified and expanded through friends, allies, social groups, and networks, just a lot of luck, or your elder sibling. And in that regard, there may be something emerging from this eclipse that's going to increase your career gains to any of those people. And the eclipse is with Neptune, and so it could involve things to do with social media, videography platforms, or something to do as well with how Saturn says cautionary, structured, and wise choices regarding those longer range monies and your career gains with this Mercury here. And go back in time to see how it compares to 1987-89 and 2006-2008, that window of time. Mercury's the final dispositor. He's got the buck stops with him for this eclipse, and he is in your second house of money, earnings, resources, and financial wellness. And so at the end of the day, it looks like a lot of your money stuff is shifting from this destined eclipse during this time. And, Mercury, he's like, I like to market, sell, and merchandise, speak and communicate, make deals and negotiate in your second house. What is it about? How is that happening for you? With the sun, it's definitely oriented to people's career. Sun is saying career, Mercury sun, what are you going to do to make money and save money and what do you call it? Like invest money and make money for you. But it's coming off of this 11th house. Some of it's just karmic dividends. You never know. Jupiter does rule your 5th house of lottery wins. I'm not guaranteeing it. He's looking across that way. But some karmic dividend checks are coming to roost. A lot of loving transpersonal support from Pluto in the house of work and karmic matters as well to increase your financial gain. And it probably is through work because you had a Mars-Uranus conjunction on Algol here on July 15th. And over the next 2 years, dramatic, exciting changes to your career that bring more money to you, basically, bring you more wealth. With the node of fate still in the good old 9th house, this is a father figure house. Wounds with father figures are being repaired. This is also a house to do with foreign travel and visas. And so something in this eclipse could open up international revenue, foreign travel and foreign visas, foreign shore opportunities, an increase of your spiritual awareness and your spiritual connection to the divine, which is what the North Node's been trying to do anyway, and a deeper alignment with your dharmic life, the purpose for which you were born. And there's a lot of purposefulness embedded into this energy for you. Some of you are coming into purpose, but financial success aligned with purpose because of this hybrid eclipse. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. I might get up and get some water after you guys. Hang in there, everybody. What the sky suggests here is you're going to be experiencing an eclipse cycle in Pisces. last seen in 2006 to 2008, 1987 to 89, which expands, grows, and changes things to do with your marriage house. Now, this is the house of the first marriage, but this is the house of marriage, carte blanche. It's just marriage, right? It's your significant other. And so changes are happening with your significant other. They may be happening to your significant other rather than to the marriage or the relationship itself. It could be either, but go back to the other dates I've mentioned, what kind of changes happen there. Or if you have audience, marketplace clients, or business partners, bigger shifts there as well. Eclipses mean endings. So I have a Virgo rising best friend, and very, very possible she's going to see the end of her work as a real estate agent. She wants to live abroad. That will eclipse her work with clients because obviously real estate work is local. That's just a practical example. But Virgos in long-term committed love stories, either your partner is having major changes or you're changing or the relationship is changing. That's what's happening here. Now, it could be changing for the good or it could be changing for the ending. A lunar eclipse is revealing to you what must happen, what must be done, what must be seen in order for your choices to be made. Neptune takes the rose-colored glasses off those relationships and makes it Saturnian. You see the clear truth at realism, but your partner's this as well. They've been maybe a little heavy, burdened, sorrowful, melancholic, isolated, controlling. My girlfriend's partner lost his mother, and that was a big sadness for him, obviously. So, your partner's going through a Saturnian cycle, but Saturn is testing your relationship until 2026. In relationship, a lot of Virgos are kicking the tires, or that's more like checking for a cracked engine block, right? Is this going to last? Now, this eclipse is asking you to expand the relationship, and a North Node eclipse cycle in my client work shows up as the relationship is root bound. The pot is too small. It needs a bigger pot to grow in. South Node eclipses end relationships if they start out when a relationship exists. The North Node expands the relationship to a larger destined purpose if you're available for the change. Otherwise, it will end too. Keep it in mind. So it can bring intensity into those long-term love relationships. Squares Jupiter. What could that mean? Jupiter's your career. You're king of Mount Olympus. You're killing it. Lucky as hell, prosperous, liked by the boss, expanding your career, lucky breaks in finding a job and career. So you're on your game. You're on your game. And your partner is like, what? Are you like paying attention to me? Or what's going on here? There can be conflict between your career direction and your partnership. Or your reputation is up here. I'm married, divorced, and widowed. And Jupiter is like, I'm in detriment. So there could be a downturn in the relationship reputation. Then, of course, Mercury, the final dispositor, looks across the way. He's got his buck stops here, guys. The buck stops with you, Virgo. This is in your court. If this relationship is wobbly, it's in your court to make it stable. If this relationship is going to cause tension between your work and you and the other person, the ball is in your court. Do not start a brand new relationship under this. It's too intense. If you're single, wait it out a bit. Wait till the eclipse is over at the very least. If you ask me, I think so. But what the hell? I'm not your dating app. For those people in relationship and business partnerships, same things applies. I just covered. And what about the idea here that Mercury in dignity with the sun, really strong energy, right? I think he's still visible here. He's not even under the beams yet. He's 10 degrees away, 11. So he's visible, a visible Mercury in the house of you, in the house of his joy. I can't understate how strong this is for all of my Virgos out there. And I'm thinking of 3 women automatically in the front of my mind, and plus my Virgo sun, my SON, SUN, my son has a Virgo sun. And I'm thinking, you guys have got this. Okay, you have got this, but you are Mercury. You are the one with the ideas, the mind, the intellect, the communications ability to resolve anything to do with relationship challenges, but also to make sure that your career succeeds, because Jupiter wants to be down here. He wants to be expanding the home, a bigger home, joy in the home, children in the home, fertility in the home, wealth in the home. Jupiter really wants to play down here. He's exiled. So he has to work in the top of the sky in a career, but boy, does he want to be down here. So in some ways, maybe Mercury says, well, you got to work and you're expanding and work, bitch, and you're lucky at work and you work hard for your money and all that good stuff. But there needs to be some releasing of all of this to remember the value of the nest, the value of the private time, the value of the domestic life itself. I can easily see some Virgos losing track of the importance of relationship through work, the work arc, for example. That's another way it could look. And if you're not a working Virgo, for example, then it can be the problems your partner's going through have to be acknowledged by you. And you're almost like the nonviolent communicator therapist here. You're the one helping them through it. And that sustains the new pot the relationship grows in. This is the North Node. The North Node is saying chunky money and shared resources. How do you guys spend the money and save the money together? How do you account for who pays for what? What kind of business and marriage partnership monies are being investigated, opened up, revealed into the relationship from this eclipse? Because this is just chunky money, but it's shared with other people. And your partner may want to share an inheritance with you, or you may want to share an inheritance with your partner, for example. And that's another story, right? Allows for a bigger home down here, that's for sure, if you want one. Yeah. Okay, moving out of the story. Clear. I know some of you go, what? I can't afford a home and I'm living, on the street. A lot of times I see these in the comments and I realize I'm living a kind of privileged existence. So take it in stride. You still have a home, right? So if you have a pup tent, you might get a giant tent, or you might just get a home after all. So I'm to all of those who are going through hardships around home and money, don't believe your limitations, see beyond what you think is possible. Moving into the next narrative, which is Libra. And normally I take a chocolate break at Gemini or Libra, but I'm going to take a water break. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And thank you to all of you who commented on my new haircut. I couldn't take it anymore. And I had COVID in, when did I have it? Early June. And when I was in Europe, I had the new variant, flirt. Well, and every time I've had COVID, 2 times, I start to lose hair. I know a lot of us talked about it before here. Not that I'm pruning, but trimming. But I just noticed that just before my haircut, and it's actually better to have short hair if it's doing a temporary shed. I'm like, everywhere I go, I have hair falling off. So thanks for the compliments on the hair. I appreciate that. A lovely, lovely hairstylist in Vancouver. And her name is Sue Kim at Yaletown Hair Studio. I also want to share her because Vancouver girls that hear this are going to take up all her time, but she's a wonderful Korean girl, talented hairstylist. So it's Yaletown Hair Studio. She was so affordable at the time she took the precision cut in Vancouver, Canada. Sue Kim, say I sent you, say the astrologer girl sent you. I don't know if I gave her my astrology channel or not, but anyway, Sue Kim, Yaletown Hair Studio. She did an amazing job. I'm really delighted. So go check her out. And it was so affordable for the time she spent. It was really, really affordable. All right. I'm going to pause the recording, get the water, and be right back. Okay. Like, subscribe if you're in the live premiere, especially. Guys, thank you so much. Hit the like button and subscribe and share the video and anything else that you think you can do to support the channel's growth. Appreciate it so very, very much. And let's round this up in a timely-ish manner. If this video isn't 2.5 hours, I'd be surprised. All right. Libra, sun, moon, and rising signs, an eclipse is occurring like it did in 2006 to 2008, 1987 to 89. Eclipse cycle is beginning to happen again in the sign of Pisces North Node transit. This is opening up an expansion of your work, your health matters, pets, tenancies, rental agreements, especially with Pluto in the 4th house. Are you a Libra looking for a new home to rent or a landlord to lease your home? Yay, you. But this North Node cycle is just starting out, and it suggests very strongly that you're going to grow in the next couple of years in work and health matters. Now, work especially. What is the work you do to be of service to the world? If you have a drudgery, dutiful job, you feel like a servant, then that's going to obviously expand and change that in a destined way, because Saturn is making your work feel hard. You are working hard, and work can feel very difficult, although you're persevering through to 2026 with Saturn here. And also this can bring death of elder pets, Saturn. It can also mean that your health challenges that you come up with during this transit are karmic, and that's March of 2023 to February 2026. But work is going to change, right? End of story. The eclipse is conjunct Neptune. Your rose-colored glasses about your work, where you thought you had a vision or you thought it was doable and you were saying, I can do this. Maybe you're more clear and realistic now about what you want and what you're capable of doing in work. That's for sure. I want to say, if you are Libra rising, use non-traditional methods like hypnosis or trance states to heal your body with Neptune still in your house of sickness. Now, it's interesting as well because this energy is squaring Jupiter, and Jupiter is in your ninth house. And there is an indication that you may have to deal with some tension in the ninth, which is to do with book publishing, foreign lands, foreign shores, visas, passports, legal matters, and judges and courts. And you're also going to have to deal with some challenges over here with regards to Sun, Mercury. And at the end of the day, this is the tension of a T square. Well, I don't know. It could be that if you've got to, first of all, if you work for an international company, Mercury in your 12th house or international revenue sources, borderless income, Mercury in dignity is the final dispositor of the eclipse. And ultimately, he holds all the cards in his hand. But someone from a foreign shore, a foreign land, or some projects you do to do with writing or communicating in your solitudinous downtime alone could lead you to greater success up here. I need to charge my battery on my computer. Give me a sec. Yikes. Okay, still recording while I go get a charger cord for my laptop that's going to die on this in 30 seconds or less. I'll be right back, guys. Okay. I'll never get through this video. It's extremely long. Someone's got a cork of red wine open. Okay, so I'm back. All right. So continuing on, Libra, it feels to me like at the end of the day, you're going to expand Jupiter says luck with regards to publications, serial podcasting, matters to do with your spiritual faith and belief, higher education, colleges and campus, international visas and travels. All of this is yay you. And it looks like some of you with Mercury in the 12th could get a job from a foreign company or move to another country for a job, for example. And this eclipse cycle is kind of trying to open that up between this eclipse and, let's say, June of next year when Jupiter's here, until Jupiter leaves here. That aside, there's a karma axis on 12 and 6, okay? So there's a lot of karmic energy already in these houses, and now nodes of fate are activating karmic themes. South node eventually helps you let go of undoing self-addiction, bad habits, and patterns. That's just going to happen whether you want to or not, and expands into work as service, pets, and rentals and tenancies. Jupiter up here might say, I want to expand my publications, my educational, my travel. I'm in detriment. I don't have the details. Mercury's got the details in the 12th house. Pay attention to your dreams at night. Pay attention to your inner insights and reveries. Look at what you can come up with in your intuition, your imagination, and your visions in your trance states and your downtime home alone. Mercury is in solitude here, coming up and batching amazeballs plans for your expansion in the 9th house. Possibly as well, that you can see that we see Pluto here, and that can be a powerful change of home. 9 out of 10 times Pluto transits in the 4th house when people move. They don't move neighbors and neighborhoods, they move countries. All right, big changes for you. Could come out of this in the next couple of years, but this one eclipse is trying to propel it forward in the next 6 months. And you're going to have a revelation about work, like a new sight line for what you need to change in your work in order for you to experience Jupiterian power in the 9th, right? Whatever that is, for that book publishing deal, for that desire to travel abroad or move abroad, or to align with your work with your spiritual philosophy, that energy. The node is in your 7th house, indicating your marriage partner or business partners may be somehow involved in all of this change that's happening here. So maybe your partner in love, and you're healing a wound in long-term love, or a business partner or a new love partner coming in. So for a single Libra, because dating can happen in the 6th house and the North Node is destined, and this is a committed house, a new dating opportunity for a committed love relationship may emerge in the lives of single Libras. And it may involve the words travel, foreign lands, and foreign shores. But if you're in a partnership already, your existing partner is combining forces with you in whatever this is to do with work, rental properties, changes of home connected to rentals, changes of residence connected to other countries, or travel, extensive travel opportunities. And your partner is involved because this is the house of that committed partner in love or in business. And let's go ahead and talk about Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. All right, Scorpio, let me make sure that when I plugged in, I actually got a charge going. Yep. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. Back in 2006 to 8 and 1987 to 89, North Node eclipse cycle happened in your fifth house of fertility and children, and love and romance, and entrepreneurial business and creative projects. Go back, Scorpio, to your love life then, or your fertility. Were you making babies, making business projects, creative projects, or romantic love happened here? Now, it's Saturnian this time. You've been very serious about love, serious about fertility, serious about creative projects. You're working hard to be creative, etc. It's a bit of a heavy energy in romance for sure. May have made you more like a chore, like my love life is a chore. But nonetheless, this is what's happening as an eclipse on Neptune occurs. Neptune is a new factor. So you might take back those rose-colored glasses because an eclipse is revealing to you clarity around your children, around conception of children, regarding love, regarding romance and sexuality. And now you have a lunar light revealing something to you that you weren't unable to see before. The light reveals it, so you make changes here. And one of your children may be making changes, and you're just watching from your scorpionic sight line about what's going on for a child. A lunar eclipse could be a revelation about a child or for a child. When this is occurring, this eclipse is occurring, it's quite possible that you could meet a new person, because every time I see North Node eclipses through someone's marriage house, love and romance house, often a new relationship emerges, a new soulmate destined relationship. But on the other hand, if you have children already, you may spend a lot more time preoccupied with your children for some reason, right? There's an emphasis on turning up the volume in the house of children. Good for entrepreneurs. It expands your entrepreneurial business and allows it to grow. The last time Saturn was in my entrepreneurial fifth house, back in 2019-20, well, really 1920 is when I started Lunatic astrology on YouTube. And that was a North Node eclipse cycle through Gemini. So ultimately, look at this as an expansion of any entrepreneurial or self-directed business endeavors that you're craving, or creative projects for all of you artists out there, performers and artists. This is expanding you there as well. But you've got Saturnian wisdom guiding it, and realistic expectations as well. Good for musicians, photographers, filmmakers, scriptwriters, screenwriters, storytellers. Neptune is there, and this expands you over the next 2 years and that part of your chart where you can be more successful and seeking worldly goods, fame, riches, and glory. And they may come for you as well. Now, when you see this in a square to Jupiter, you must take note, because Jupiter is looking over here and going, and the eclipse is looking at Jupiter, and then Mercury and the sun are looking at Jupiter, and everything creates a big T square, right? So in essence, T square. There is this expansion in love, romance, children, and there is some square from the chunky money house. So you're due for an inheritance. Quite possibly, many Scorpios will inherit money, especially with Pluto moving back into Aquarius after November 19th. It's a legacy wealth transit when he's here. And because of that, there's a possibility in the 6 months that follow the eclipse, you're going to inherit some money. And that's the end of it. Could be a solar figure because of the moon here, for sure, and the house of great gains and pennies from heaven. So father figure, inheriting money, or Scorpio, that's a possibility. It doesn't have to be your dad or your granddad. It could be any man that you look up to, like a dad figure, and that's that. Now, inheriting money is one thing that this eclipse could trigger for you. Jupiter is in the house of chunky money, moving direct. And yet, Jupiter doesn't pay attention to the details. And so there's a lot of hope and optimism without a lot of detail. And so Mercury has the final say as the dispositor of the eclipse, because Jupiter can't handle it. And he tells Jupiter what to do. It reverbs this way. See, Mercury tells Jupiter what to do. Jupiter tells the eclipse what to do. Mercury is in the house of career gains and friends and groups of belonging and elder sibling. So Mercury is a very social character up here with the sun. And this is no networking, guys. This is social networking connected to career matters. So some of you Scorpios will find yourself opening up over the next 6 months from this eclipse into social networking, likely involving solar or career activities connected to your creative and your business and your love and romance. But all said and done, you do have some potential for some feeling of pennies from heaven and chunky money expansion and growth coming off of your eclipse. With the north node still in Aries and, being connected to your eclipse, some of this can also increase your success in your work, right? Your work or your ability to eliminate debts. So pay down a debt, pay off a credit card, pay down a mortgage, get rid of a debt, or increase your work. You're healing your work stuff with Chiron. Increase your work success, at work, in your work, whatever your work is, and the gains from your career as well. Sometimes Jupiter here could be a sign-on bonus, a severance package, buying company stock, a stock in the stock market that can boom for you to create greater wealth in the 6 months that follows this eclipse. All right. Hopefully that is somewhat useful. Don't forget, this is a cycle you've been through before. There are different factors every time. It's good to also look backwards and try to suss out how it worked before. Tell me in the comments, how did it go for you guys in the other times with this kind of monetary overlay in this chart as well? I almost forgot to say, with the North Node in the 6th house, if you want to move into more enthusiasm, joy, and inspiration in life, and fun and play and pleasure, it also connects to destined turnarounds in health matters, just as a general vibe. Especially if you let go of an addiction. South Node Venus story is still in play in your 12th house. I make it sound like everyone's got an addiction, but everyone has an addiction. I don't care if it's Netflix or Haagen-Dazs. We're all escaping reality because it's a bit of a shit show here. All right, so let's talk about Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising, guys. So, go back to 2006 to 2008, 1987 to 1989. You had a North Node expansion of your 4th house. Could you have changed home, moved to a foreign country? Could you have expanded your home? Were there destined changes in and from your home in those windows of time? I bet you there were. I have a girlfriend who got a divorce and kicked the hubby out of the home back then, and she's a Sag. So what was going on that changed the home life? That's basically it. Now, the expansion is destined. The changes are destined. Quite often, North Node Rahu can mean foreigners and foreign shores, a foreigner element, a move to another country. You want to be worldly and successful because of what you're doing in and from your home. That's another interpretation. This is also Saturnian and Neptunian. Neptune conjunct the eclipse is saying your rose-colored glasses are off. You're being fantastically realistic here. You're fantastically realistic about what you want to achieve in and from your home. Some Sagittarius have been feeling isolated, alone, and lonely in their home because of the Saturn transit that lasts until 2026, but started last March of 23. So there's a breaking up of the stagnation around this sort of isolation, home alone, or having an elder live with you intensity that's going on here. And you will find that the eclipse, like an icebreaker in the water, the frozen water of Pisces, begins to eliminate that problem. This is also an eclipse that squares Jupiter. Well, that's not easy because Jupiter's in the house of significant people, your business partner, your marriage type partner, your clients and audience. For some Sagittarius, this is going to put them right in the thick of a challenge to do with their morbidly melancholic, nostalgic home life and something to do with another person. Jupiter's direct, so this is not from your past. This is a person you're with. What significant friend, really significant friend then, marriage partner, business partner is going to have to be engaged by you in the next 6 months in order to make some significant changes. Jupiter moving through a marriage house, it means either an up level in the relationship, let's move in, let's get married, let's get engaged, or a kiboshing of the relationship. Jupiter brings blessed endings. When people are suffering from pain, Jupiter takes out the pain. Your partner could be a part of that story. Maybe they're wanting to move on or something like that, or you're wanting them to move on, and it could be a blessed ending. With this energy as well, you may expand into your audience, marketplace, clients, that kind of environment, because Mercury is in the 10th house of career with the sun, your career and reputation. Mercury is the final dispositor of the eclipse. Mercury wants your career and reputation to be super fine. He's like, we're communicating up here. We're having ideas. We're speaking to the public up here. Things are elevating now. Things are getting higher in the sky for you in the career, communication, speaking, negotiating arena. And yet you've got the push-pull of this drag on your high-flying Mercury from the house of home. That could be a parent, could be a mother, could be an elder in the home, not your elder, any old elder. It could be even dealing with constraints around the home, difficulties in the home that are really burdensome. And yet Mercury wants it all to come back to this part of the sky, high-flying career energy. And Jupiter supports that. Jupiter is in flow to that, in direct motion. Like basically your home life is a bit of a quicksand here, where you really want to elevate up into the career space and reach out to more people, maybe clients, audience, and career. Maybe you're going to experience a new relationship under this. You could. And if you do, it's a destined one. But with the North Node in the fourth house, it's close to home. And it's somebody who has the same childhood values as you do, comes right out of like, you could have been like living, in your, like you were marrying somebody who was a family member that you've known forever. So new relationships that begin under this have a destined sort of karmic, familial feel to them in essence. Ultimately, South Node transits will go through here and allow you to let go, surrender, and release aspects of your career and reputation. You're retired, I don't care. Are you widowed, divorced, separated? Public standing and reputation can be surrendered and released. I'm a hardworking dude, let it go. I'm widowed, let it go. I'm married now. I'm married, I'm getting divorced. So you have to let go of what the world sees you doing in your significant relationship. So for some of you, you may segue to endings, and some of you to new beginnings. With the North Node moving through Aries, it also invites you to the following themes: fun, play, pleasure, inspiration, and enthusiasm regarding sexuality, fertility, and children, and creative projects. Chironic wound has been dealt with here since 2019 in that sex life, for example, romantic house. And possibly there's going to be a deep healing as you begin to experience the final end of the story, where things have been challenging. You want to do creative projects, you want to write, you want to create, you want to have your own business, you want to have a gloriously happy sex life, or something's wrong here. So things are changing from a deep root of your family of origin, your childhood beliefs, your ancestral patterns, to liberate you from unsatisfactory relationships with your romantic partners and your children, and your own creative and procreative process. Moving to the next sign in this century, we will be done this video, I promise. We're moving on to the next one, which is Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. If you're a Capricorn, what you get going in the sky is you have this energy of an eclipse in a cycle that you've experienced in 2006 to 8, 1987 to 89, and it's a North Node increase of worldly success and a growth and expansion and attention to your third house of travel, younger sibling, one under you, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, writing, online social media stuff, communications, marketing and selling, neighbors and neighborhood, to name a few, skills-based learning or teaching. All of those themes are growing and expanding for you over the course of the next couple of years. This is your first opening act. You have Neptune here, unlike in other years, and you've had rose-colored glasses about siblings, travel, online environment, neighbors, neighborhood, all the things I mentioned, travel opportunities, very clouded since 2011, working through stuff. But Saturn's been here since last year. Now you're realistic. You're realistic about and fantastical at the same time. You have a realistic vision of what is possible when it comes to neighbors, neighborhood travel, etc. Although sometimes with Saturn, your local neighborhood feels alone, isolating. You feel alone in the neighborhood. You don't feel connected, maybe something like that. Now Capricorn, energetically, and travel can feel constricted and restrictive as well. Short distance travel feels burdensome. But really, the eclipse is changing everything and is opening up a doorway of destined change around these matters. And sometimes because we learn in the third house over the next 2 years, some of you are going back to school, so to speak. You want to learn a skill that you can use in life, not some airy-fairy thing. And webinars and shorter learning is down here. You have a square to Jupiter. And there's a god of education squaring from the house of work. So you might have some propulsion from Jupiter to expand your work through new directions of study, Expand your work through travel opportunities. Expand your work and livelihood matters. Devil ain't in the details with Jupiter, but he's hopeful here. Expand your health through changes to your ideas and changes to how you get better health through different neighborhood engagements. I don't know. Jupiter in the sixth house is trying to protect your body. And basically till next June, you're pretty healthy. Okay. But still Jupiter isn't a house of sickness. So there is sometimes Jupiter's tendency to expand an illness that you didn't notice, like to make it visible, like, and then you really see you got a problem in order to heal it. Just keep that in mind. So you can have an expansion of an existing health challenge that was going under your radar so you can heal it. And then with Neptune, Saturn, you might be healing it through things that have to do with traveling. You may be traveling to a clinic or through things that are local, like your chiropractor, acupuncturist in the local hood, helping you resolve health challenges, for example. And the eclipse could bring your awareness to the challenges that are there. Mercury is the final dispositor for the eclipse, and the buck stops with him. I explained why in earlier parts of this video, in the beginning, I think. Now, Mercury opposite the eclipse with the sun, that's what an eclipse is, squaring the lunar eclipse, squaring Jupiter. Let's say Mercury wants you to study big. He wants you to either travel abroad and you're protected by him, or go off to a real university. Don't just skip down to like a vocational school, because he's got the creds up there to really succeed in long distance, higher educational settings, book publications, things to do for traditional book publishers, even things to do with, legal court matters succeeding. And really, because this is a travel and work and a teaching axis, travel and teaching matters really keep going to the ninth house. Finding a longer term course of study, a guide, a mentor, or a teacher for you could really help you improve your health and improve your work. I wouldn't put it aside that you could change your home. The North Node here is really operating on this eclipse next door, because it's why the eclipse is happening. You want to expand your home, could be to a foreign land. North Node Rahu can be move your home to a foreign place. This is an eclipse cycle that started last July and ends in January of this year. You've been wounded about where's my true home, indicating some of you may move your home from this eclipse. And this eclipse would bring you a blessed new home, but likely a rental, because Jupiter is in the house of rental. So likely an expansion of home connected to rental property, up the sleeve of the sky for a lot of Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising who may move their home across international boundaries and borders over the next 6 months. And the keyword would be rental. And I'm going to stick with that. Let me know what happens. Will you? This is a long cycle. It's only just starting. And so we got a lot of eclipse videos ahead of us over the next 2 years, year and a half. Hey, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. Yes, you know me. I am one of you. Well, guys, the energy of this story is pretty simple. We're back again to an energetic expansion of our earnings house. We felt this expansion in our money, earnings, and food style second house quite acutely back in 2006 to 2008. And we felt it again in 1987 to 1989. Now, because it is literally your resources financially, this is an expansion with the North Node that makes your finances better and bigger. For example, I managed to sell a property back then and I made a lot of money and I lived off of it for years, which is why now I have to work again. But it really was a big boost of my increase in my finances. So go back to see how your financial well-being expanded or increased through North Node eclipse energy building. This is a story that could happen again, 87 to 89. Well, I got pregnant and left my job and left my work, which is lovely, actually, because I was burning out on my magazine job during that cycle of time. But I was also expanding my money in 87. 88 before I quit, for the 89 birth of my child. And so I was feeling good about my work. I was being praised. I got a promotion. I was making money. So I was expanding my earnings as a reporter in Chelsea, Manhattan. So ask yourself how you're going to expand your money, your earnings, and your resources, or the universe will help you do it. You don't have to focus too hard. That's a bad North Node drawing. It looks terrible. It looks like a snail. Anyway, and also I'm enjoying it now that I'm scribbling all over this much more than I used to. Time is flying because I'm a doodler back in school, doodle away. Back to you guys. if you want to change your food style, dietary habits can dramatically change here. Okay. You may adopt an entirely new way of eating because this is what the North Node can do here. And so consider with Pluto backing into the addictions house as well, a new style of food or what you drink or smoke or eat is changing in a destined way as a result of the first eclipse here on the 17th, 18th of September. And Pluto gives you transpersonal willpower, especially after October 11th, to completely eliminate a substance abuse, addiction, bad habit, or pattern dietary style, food style, ingestion style. All right, moving into the problem with Jupiter. Jupiter squares the eclipse. Still, a Jupiter square is not a negative thing always. Jupiter is a benefic, but he's in detriment. He's in the sign of his exile. And so therefore, he's not as strong as he should be. That means that something's going on with one of your children, with your romantic partnership, with your sex life, your entrepreneurial business, or your creative projects that's expanding with Jupiter's help through to next year, through to June, which is wonderful. It's a money luck transit. It's good for winning the lottery. It's really good for your children having children. You're going to be a grandparent. It's really good for your own fertility if you want to make a baby, because Jupiter is the god of children. So like, you don't mind this transit, it's feeling good. But in the eclipse, Jupiter has to kind of elbow the eclipse in his own house, and he's not strong. He's bogged down with the details, He's got a big vision for your creative project, your entrepreneurial business, your grandchildren, children's life, and they're supposed to expand and grow. Where are the details about how to make it happen? Good news, Mercury. He's the one who tells Jupiter what to do, and he's the final dispositor of the eclipse. Jupiter happens to be looking at the eclipse and opposing Saturn from the 8th house of chunky money, inheritance money, investments in the markets money coming from the shared resources with your marriage partner, with the sun that represents your long-term marriage or business partner. So money through business partnerships and marriage partnerships are connected to this eclipse. The North Node is expanding your personal resources, and it somewhat depletes eventually next year, after January, the energy you have with other people's money, making you less reliant on it if you ever have been. But the point I'd say is in the short term, in the 6 months that follow and the month before this eclipse, you may be going into paying attention to your tax structures, your credit card debts, the way you structure money in investments, your retirement monies, just really eyeballing those monies through the lens of Mercury's acute details, right? Shining a solar light in there and really attending to those financial details. The sun rules the house of your marriage partner, and their money may be on your eyeball radar more. You might be inspecting the joint monies you may or may not be sharing if you have a partner. And, you never know. Some shocking money from a family of origin inheritance may be coming through Algol, Uranus, the sky, connected to this eclipse. So some of you may get some money that surprises you in a divorce settlement or inheritance from a spouse or money from a family of origin, kicking up a storm, Jupiter in the house of good fortune, including money, luck. And therefore, this eclipse can open that up for you in the 6 months ahead. However, with the North Node here in your 3rd house, looking at the eclipse, because it's a part of the eclipse, you're also going to expand in the 3rd house as well as in your money. So money expands through 3rd house mechanisms, travel, teaching, learning, selling, marketing, social media, online communications, websites, all of that kind of stuff. So that's a vehicle or a mechanism by which the expansion is taking place. And North Node has been expanding you there already with your online social media website stuff anyway, right? Starting in April of 2020. Well, the node last July of 23. So this is just sort of taking some of that expansion and now dripping it into the money house. So both those areas expand. So I'll use me as an example. I have a YouTube channel. For God's sakes, I have no time, no energy to repurpose it on TikTok and Instagram. And I can't afford someone who, I can't pay what someone asked me to pay. It was just too much to do that. And so I'm thinking I need to expand my existing content into other platforms. That's just a classic thing that you're seeing here that would lead to greater revenue. So that's a classic example of what the eclipse is telling me already. So you guys parse it out for your own sign, but it expands your money. It's the first salvo of money expansion, earnings expansion, This is going to keep going on through 25 into 2026. Get ready for a financial roll. And if you're an Aquarius, you've been living off your retirement savings, investment monies, or your partner's money, that's not the direction anymore. You're moving into relying on the money that you are creating in your own self-sustaining voice, vocation, and calling. Now, finally, and never last, and certainly never least, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Well, Pisces, you guys are going to be in the eclipse crosshairs. I would have started with you, but I didn't want to confuse masses out there. You are being changed. You are growing bigger. You're stepping into big girl panties and big boy booties, or whatever you want to call it. You're kind of increasing the range of your character. If it's your sun, it's your career. You're increasing your moon, your body, your home. And if it's your rising sign, the whole avatar that you are in this game simulation of life is changing, and you're focused on you. And you're taking focus away from your significant marriage type partnership. You're no longer going to be so worried about the other people in your life as you focus on you. Now, go back to 2006 to 2008 and go back to 1987 to 89. How did you grow? How did you expand? It's different. We have Neptune. You're no longer under any kind of illusional spells, if you ever were. You're a realist and a visionary, and about who you are meant to be and how you're meant to live your life. And when Neptune was traveling here through 11 years, some of you got involved in rose-colored glasses in marriages and relationships, where you were seeing the other person through some kind of fantasy or dreamy hope, right? And certainly as Neptune gets ready to leave here by February of 26, you're no longer going to be able to do that. You're seeing people, your others in your life, especially a significant mate, for who they are. And so you're realistic, and you're no longer in illusion about other people that you engage with. And that could include a sibling that is 3 siblings above you, and your relationship with them being shifted as well, away from them, basically towards yourself. And this is an energy that also involves Jupiter, because Jupiter here is saying, we want to expand and be prosperous and bountiful, joyful and hopeful and faithful and optimistic in our private domestic home life, in the land and home upon which we reside, and the people with whom we reside with, who are in the home. We're looking for blessings and grace and goodness in the home. And a lot of you have changed homes or are lucky in a home change and have expanded your home. And this may be true for all of you till next June, as Jupiter is still here in that 4th house. And when I see this, I know that you can be quite prosperous through inheritances. And that's true until January. So money from your own inheritances, or from a partner's inheritances, or from the sale of property has been true for you from last July through to this January. And Jupiter just expands that possibility and makes it more obvious to you, as well as money in a widowhood, a widowerhood, or separation or divorce of assets in a marriage. These are themes playing through your sky in a particularly acute way through till next June. Now, when I see Jupiter down here, you might be teaching or learning from home. You might be prosperous and expansive and communicative from your home. But the eclipse square means that you're also being forced to be realistic, maybe about matters about your long-term committed love, single or not, business partners, or how you serve clients or audience, right? Mercury is the final dispositor of the eclipse, and he's looking at Jupiter saying, here's what you need to do. And he's filling in for Jupiter in a bit. So this eclipse could open up a big portal of communication. You may find yourself engaging with clients, audience, and marketplace in new ways. You may have extremely important conversations with a significant long-term marriage type relationship partner if you have one. I'm not sure I'd start anything new under this eclipse. It looks too difficult. But if you have a marriage partner, you're definitely able to open up channels of communication, and they may be very communicative all of a sudden with you. That's that story there. Jupiter here could be asking for some kind of growth of the home physically, and you have to square it away with your significant other, right? So there's that, like you want to build an outhouse, a building, an extra building, a new deck, a bigger garden, and you have to work out this tension. It sounds micro, but it can be important. And because Jupiter expands the home, You could have new children being born and living in the home, but you almost have more people in the home. So if you're in a house where you have extra rooms, you may be increasing the multiplying the people in the home by having people live in the home, renting out rooms in your home, that kind of thing. And that's a possibility as well. Sometimes that just looks as simple as that, especially because the sun involves the house of tenancies and rentals, and there's that sun Mercury combo. So you may rent out the home for some reason, or rent out rooms in your home. That's all possible too. And with the north node, with the south node, with the north node still in the earnings house, the good news is this: the lunar eclipse here wants to help you have realistic expectations as you grow your visions for yourself that increase your financial wellness, because ultimately the North Node eclipse starting in there April of 2023, the node moving there July of 23, and ending all in January and in March, in January and March, the eclipses and the nodes of 25. You're coming to the end of a destined change and of your earnings and resources and financial wellness. And that can include inheritances, money with your spouse, of selling a home. I've talked about this before. That's closing out, but this is different. This is you changing so that you are more financially well-resourced and healing a chironic wound around money that may have been in place, or food style, or self-worth and self-esteem since 2011. Some Pisces dissed me and then quit my channel. Like, we Pisces are on our money game. I don't know who you're talking about. Maybe you're not a Pisces rising, especially, right? If you're just listening for your sun. But that's not true of most Pisces I know. Chiron has been wounding their money house since 2018, 19, right? He's a 19, really. And it's still there. So you've had some kind of financial wounds, if not persistent, at least at some point. And also self-esteem wounds, and maybe wounds to your dietary style and how you feel about your facial appearance, right? And this has been happening. I can't see it not, unless you're not really a Pisces rising, especially. So for all Pisces, sun, turning around career and financial wellness. Pisces moon, turning around home matters and body matters and food style and financial wellness. Pisces rising, everything about you in the avatar of you equals financial well-being increasing from this last eclipse that connects to your second house. But the changes come through a new connection and expansion of how you see yourself relative to domestic life, people in your home, and your marriage partner. You're beginning to grow a pair of balls with Saturn giving you a heavy duty backbone, where you're not compromising for domestic problems or people or your own children or your marriage partner, right? You're doing you in a new way. And that's true for the next couple of years. Thanks, Pisces, for hanging in there. And we're done. That was ridiculously long. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Come and do Sky Reader with me this fall. Learn to be your own astrologer, time your best life. I'd love to have you in class. We're starting the last weekend of the month, and we go for 6 weeks. Last weekend of September, we're going to go for 6 weeks, every single weekend, with coaching calls and a homework group on Facebook, high touch, a lot of interaction with me and people helping me in the group. What she's doing is adjusting her atlas bone without any chiropractic assistance. Thanks, guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. This eclipse video may be coming out on a Sunday. I haven't scheduled it yet. And hopefully it's edifying and gives you some great value and navigational guidance.